You are set to go.
Okay, thank you, Toby. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Burlington Area School District Board of Education, and the starting time is 7:07, April 12th. All right, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Toby, we'll have the roll call
Roseanne Hahn,
here.
Evan Bird,
Here.
Susan Kessler,
Here.
Peter Turk,
Here.
Mary Schmaling,
Here.
Diane Wood,
Here.
Miller Wishaw. Thank you.
Next, we'll have the approval of the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes from the previous meetings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Toby, roll call.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have the communications. So the citizen comments, Steve?
Yes, thank you, Roseanne. So once again, just want to remind all of our listeners that the board does take public comment, and that email address is boardcomments with an S at basd.k12.wi.us. Again, that's boardcomments at basd.k12.wi.us. And the board does respectfully ask that you include your name and address in the school district, and that you keep your communication materials to roughly 3 minutes for the board to read. The board also does ask that those comments come to them within 24 hours of a board meeting so that they have time to read those. And today we did extend that as long as we could to try to give as much public input as possible to roughly 3 o'clock. There were 3 that have come in after that simply could not make the official packet. So those comments will be held for the May meeting, which is May 10th. But again, as of 3 o'clock today, we had 18 different board comments. And the summary of those comments there were 10 different contacts from 8 different parties that were writing to the board about the decision to bring all students back to school full-time on April 6th for in-person learning. 9 of those 10 communications were expressing a desire to not have all students return. There was 1 contact to the board about certified staff compensation, and that was just highlighting the importance of step and lane movement for the board. There were 6 contacts from 3 separate parties regarding the mask requirement, asking the board to no longer uphold that expectation. And the final board comment, public comment, was about meeting structure, and that is asking the board to return to in-person meetings. And so that is the summary of the 18 public comments that the board has received since their last gathering.
Thank you very much, Steve. Okay, then we'll move into board communication. And I'll start. I'd like to mention that, Diane, this will be your last meeting as well. And I want to thank you for all the great contributions you've made to the board. You certainly have always shown that you really care about how we educate our children here in the district. Also, I'd like to congratulate Marlo and Taylor for being reelected to the school board. So congratulations to all of you. All right. As president of the board, I would like to read a statement about the DPI ruling that we just have obtained. The board would like to acknowledge the recent ruling from the Department of Public Instruction. We respect the decision, regret the impact on students and families, and will fully comply with all corrective actions outlined in the report. We know that there is work to do. We will continue to work and collaborate with district and community members. And another statement, as president, that I'm going to read has to do with the mask, the issue of masks, if the children should wear masks. The board wishes to thank all constituents that reached out with opinions about the wearing of masks. We've received several communications, both as individuals through email, as well as via board comments. The communications have expressed both support for wearing masks and a desire for us to end the requirement. We want the community to know that with 29 days of school left, we want to do everything we can to ensure that we'll all be able to continue our in-person learning that includes a host of high-stake assessments, advanced placement testing, spring sports, prom, graduation. That's just to mention a few. The board will consider ongoing recommendations from public health officials as we discuss what comes of the mask requirement as we head for our summer programs and ultimately our fall schedule and our fall semester. So thank you. Does any other board member have a communication they'd like to share?
Is this the time when I get to make my little farewell speech, or does that come later on?
No, this is fine.
Okay. All right. This is short. I just want to say I'm proud of the decisions that the board has made over the last couple of years. And I've been very proud to have been a part of that decision-making process. It's been an honor to serve alongside dedicated school board members who have put the well-being and success of students first.
Thank you, Diane. We're going to miss you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, then we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just would reiterate, Diane, our appreciation for your service. There really are no words to express the dedication and the commitment to the kids of our community. And so with appreciation, thank you. Also, with Taylor here and supposing that perhaps Marlo's watching somewhere, congratulations to the both of you as well. As Roseanne had said, it is wonderful to see the kind of dedication and commitment from community members to step forth and serve in this voluntary role and knowing just how difficult it is. So thank you, Taylor, as well.
Thank you, sir. And Marlo was
in a couple of reminders and upcoming events, sort of two things I'd like to highlight. One is that we are coming into the next phase of our cohorts that are working with Payne and Fraser of Racine in our equity and diversity training. Cohort 1 has their 5th and final module this coming Monday, the 19th. And cohort 2 has their 4th module the next night on Tuesday, the 20th. And so I know that involves a lot of board members as well. And so just want to put that out there as a reminder that those events are coming up. Also, I did communicate with the board last week about some exciting transitional training that's being made available by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards for what really is new board member training, but also could be some just great update training for any current board members. And because it's being done virtually online this year, certainly you can all attend and there's no registration. And it really sounds to be like it's going to be very good training. Those live trainings are going to have 2 elements to them. There's going to be a chunk training that's about the legal roles and responsibilities of board members. There's a daytime offering on Thursday, April 29th. That's from noon to 1:30. Knowing that many of you work, the nighttime option might be better. That's on Tuesday, April 20th, next week from 7 to 8:30 p.m. That's legal roles and responsibilities. The other half of the training is key work of school boards Same format. There's an evening training on the 22nd from 7 to 8:30, or a daytime training on the 27th from noon to 1:30. And it's also my understanding that these will be recorded should neither of those times work for you, but you just would like to watch or listen, maybe when you're on a drive or a commute to work or something. But these stand to be very good trainings, sponsored by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and are free and no registration required. Final thing is just a reminder that our upcoming meeting on the 26th, that special meeting, is the reorganizational meeting of the board. And given that that's a different and special meeting, just maybe just a quick question of what time you would like that meeting to begin. If you want to do that 6:30, 7, just maybe if somebody wants to shout out an opinion on that, we can certainly schedule it as you might desire.
How about 6:30?
Any objection? I see some thumbs up. How about
Yeah,
for
yeah.
board
6:30
members
works.
working? Does that work for you, Taylor?
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Okay. Barry, does that work for you?
What date again?
It is the 26th, Monday night, 2 weeks out for the reorg meeting. And the question is 6:30 going to be okay?
Yep, no, I got the time. I just wasn't sure on the date. Yeah, I'm clear
Got
that
it.
night,
Okay.
so that'd be fine.
Okay, thank you all. And Toby, if you could just duly note then that we'll schedule that for 6:30.
Yes, will do.
Awesome. That is it for my report. Thank you very much, everyone.
I wanted to add one thing, and we were talking about new board meetings. There is also one for Region 13, and I'm the director for that. So that will be in May, and that'll be mostly for Toby. But if any of the rest of you want to, it'll be virtual, want to tune in on that too. I'll let you know about the dates and the times. So that's another good opportunity. Okay, now we're going to do the business. We'll turn this over to Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Roseanne. The March 2021 bank statement, our total beginning cash on hand was $3,261,000 or $261,213.38. We had total deposits of $7,536,697.61. We had withdrawals in the month of $10,118,977.09, leaving a cash on hand at the end of the month of $678,933.90. And I'll make a motion to approve the March bank statement.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bank statement. Any discussion? All in favor? Toby, the roll?
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also in March, the district wrote 88 checks in the collective total of $1,065,922.14. And I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bills in March.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we pay the March bills. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, Toby? Roll call, please.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Okay, then we'll move on to the personnel. Kevin?
The Personnel Committee met earlier this evening and unanimously approved the appointments. And if Steve, you could read those for us. And then
Yes.
we'll-
Would you like me to do appointments first or retirements, resignations?
I'm sorry, resignations and retirements.
Okay. In our certified staff, we in committee accepted the retirement of Gregory Hans Block from Karcher Middle School in PE and Health. That's a retirement. We certainly appreciate all of his time and energies. In non-certified staff, the retirement of Kathy Shaw from Waller Elementary School as a special education aide. And then we had 5 resignations. That is Johnny Aguirre, instructional aide at BHS. Catherine Pahakowitz, instructional aide at Dyer Intermediate. Courtney Burns, special education aide at Waller Elementary. Abigail Kane, Project WIN special education aide at Karcher Middle School. And Carmen Rivas, instructional aide at BHS. And those were all of our retirements and resignations for both certified and non-certified staff.
And we unanimously approve them, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resignations, retirements. Any discussion? All right, Toby, call the roll.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Steve, if you could read the appointments next, please.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. For appointments, we had 3 certified staff appointments and 3 non-certified staff appointments. Our certified staff include Michelle Glitch, returning to Dyer Montessori as a grades 4 through 6 teacher, and Colleen Wagner joining us as a substitute teacher for BASD, I should say rejoining us. So Michelle and Colleen. And then Kevin, I'd like to take a moment to highlight Nicholas or Nick Ryan and introduce the board and community to the possibility of Nick serving as the next principal of Karcher Middle School, following a very extensive interview process with a team of approximately 20 teachers and 9 students. Nick really unanimously surfaced as the top choice. He would be coming to us with about a decade of experience in education, and most recently was serving as the associate principal at Riverside Middle School in his hometown of Watertown, Wisconsin. He also had spent 3 years in Gillette, Wyoming, where he was an assistant principal at both the middle school and high school levels. Ryan did earn his Bachelor of Liberal Studies from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. He earned his graduated with honors from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with his master's degree in educational leadership and policy analysis, and is currently pursuing his doctorate degree in educational leadership from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. As we know, if approved here this evening, Nick would replace Dr. Jill Olschlager, who has served as principal for the past 7 years before she accepted the position of assistant superintendent just a couple of months ago. So it is my pleasure to recommend to the full board through the personnel committee the appointment of Nick Ryan as Karcher Middle School principal. And then before I stop, I'll just mention our 3 also appointments of non-certified staff, which include Elena Ammerman and Derek Miller. Elena would be joining us as a substitute custodian, and Derek as Winkler Elementary School custodian. And finally, Brianna Sutherland as a substitute aide for the district. So it is with excitement that I offer all of their names to you for consideration.
And I would put that in the form of a motion that we approve all of those appointments.
Do you want to add the extracurricular?
Oh, would you like me to do those at the same time, Kevin?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Toby. Our extracurricular appointments, there are 4 coming into the spring sports season, and would present to you Kazmir Belinsky as assistant track coach at BHS, Rose Delatowski, assistant boys tennis at BHS, Marin Munt, assistant girls soccer at BHS, and John Nelson, middle school track and field at Karcher. And then that would round out all of our appointments.
We'll put that in the form of a motion to accept all of those appointments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept all the appointments. Any discussion? Okay, we will vote. Toby?
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will move on to the preliminary notice of non-renewal.
Yes, this was also a discussion in Personnel Committee earlier, and this preliminary notice would be for Dawn Pachniak, who was hired this past summer in our beginning band program, and had some conversation with Dawn to let her know that the board would be taking action tonight on a preliminary notice due to lack of enrollment and other scheduling difficulties that don't now require her services going into the 21-22 school year.
Okay, we need action on that, so we need
Make a motion from the Personnel Committee to accept that renewal.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the notice of non-renewal. Any discussion? Okay, then we'll vote. Toby?
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we'll move into the district consent items, all the donations.
Yes, I will gladly take on the joy of sharing this month's donations. And we had this month 11 different donations that, excuse me, totaled $9,734. And 10 of these donations are coming to Burlington High School. And they include $2,590 to the athletic department to offset costs for track and field starting blocks. That's coming from the Athletic Association. We also had $1,000 donations, 3 separate ones to the athletic department to purchase ABI laser grader for baseball and softball fields. And one of those donations of 1,000 was from Baseball 2000. One was from Junior Demons Baseball, and one was from Blast Softball. So each for $1,000 for that, which is just amazing. We also had a couple of donations to Bejazzled, a $500 donation from AMNJ Enterprises and DBA Domino's, and another $500 from After the Dash. Also to the athletic department for the laser grader and baseball, softball fields in the amount of $2,000 was Brewers Summer Baseball Camp. A $25 donation to FFA from Dolores Spitzer, and a $369 donation to FFA from Landmark. And then finally, rounding us out this evening at BHS, a $250 donation to the ice fishing team from Valmet Incorporated. And kind of hard to put a dollar amount on this last one to BHS was an enclosed trailer for the BHS ice fishing team that was donated, and that was from Burlington JCs. And then finally, a $500 donation at Cooper Elementary School from ExxonMobil Alliance. And so once again, and as always, we thank all of these wonderful citizens and companies for their generous donations and would ask that the board accept them.
I move we accept these extremely generous donations from the
Second.
community.
Did
Second by
someone
Taylor.
Did someone second? I didn't hear a second.
Yes, Taylor seconded.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we accept these more than $9,000 donations to our school district. Any more discussion? Okay, Toby?
Roseanne,
Yes.
Kevin, Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, next we're moved into items for information, and we're going to begin with a K-8 school counselor presentation. And I would like to thank all the counselors from our district who are working so hard with our students. And this is a very difficult time for kids. There's a lot of trauma and more need than ever. And I'll be very anxious to hear your presentation. thank you. So I'll turn it over to that committee.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm going to share my screen, so I'll get that going. And I just want to thank you all for taking your time tonight. I know you guys are really busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to hear what we have to say and to share our program. So it's just going to take me a minute. All right. So hopefully it works. I'm crossing my fingers. It looks okay, I think. All right. So I wanted to take a minute just to have us introduce ourselves. My name is Jenny Holly, and I'm currently the school counselor at Cooper Elementary School.
I'm Jean Freund. I am the school counselor at both Lyons and Winkler Elementary.
I'm Melinda Hoffman, the school counselor at Waller, also at Karcher this year with our 3-4 students there.
And I'm Becky Hosley. I'm a school counselor for Dyer. I at Dyer with our 6th graders and our 4 through 6 Montessori students. And then also for this quarter, I am working at Karcher with our 5th grade students.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Rezowitz. I'm currently the 7 and 8 middle school counselor at Karcher.
So we wanted to just take some time to highlight kind of our team and the great things that I'm so proud of about our team. We added it up and we have 96 years of total school counseling experience combined when we look at all of our experience. So that was a neat thing to find out. All school counselors need to have a master's degree. Plus, many of us have additional education. I consider myself a lifetime learner, and I know my team, we're all lifetime learners. We have some extensive involvement in the Wisconsin School Counselor Association, which is abbreviated as WSCA. We are involved in lots of different ways. I was recently selected to be on the WSCA board, so I will be joining that team in July. And our other school counselors on our team have presented multiple times at the WSCA conference to just share our knowledge. All of us are also involved in our communities, doing many different things. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that because our involvement with kids in the community isn't just within our buildings, it's throughout the community, and involvement in district and community committees on top of our jobs at school. And we also provide some leadership within our buildings and district leadership on things such as positive behavior within the schools, on the advisory program, and in trauma sensitive schools. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that next. I listened to the last board meeting and heard Roseanne, I heard you speak about trauma sensitive schools, that you learned a little bit about it. So I put a few slides in just some basic information on trauma sensitive schools and ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences. So I've got some data here. We will share this presentation with all of you after the meeting too, so that it's available for you to see. But just some elements of trauma sensitive schools that the goals are to keep students safe, to help students feel connected, to help students get regulated. And that really means kind of managing their emotions, being able to manage those strong feelings that we know kids are having now and have always had, but certainly coming out now with the pandemic, and just to help students learn. I like this slide because it just talks about what's a trauma sensitive school, which we're all working towards some parts of this. So trauma sensitive schools aren't a checklist or curriculum. It's not just for kids that have trauma, some effective practices for all students. It's not a weak approach and does not let kids off for bad behavior, but it helps students to learn that ability to regulate. Again, first, trauma responsive is kind of who a person is. It's best for all students, and it does hold students accountable as well. And it's the foundation for developing caring relationships. And we talk a lot in trauma sensitive and trauma informed schools also about resilience and students being able to be resilient. So kind of our journey as a school district, and the K team is directly involved with this. Cooper Elementary applied for and received a training grant in 2018. And our team at Cooper started to work on learning for a few years, and then for a year. And then the elementary school counseling team, we began learning and working at our PLC meetings to learn more about trauma and impacts on students, because all of us heard about it within our education programs and through learning, but there's new information that's come out, and it's really important to what we do. in winter of 2020, I presented to the administrative team on trauma sensitive schools to look at what we could do within our district to expand that training along with the team. And we had developed a team that included a lot of our counselors here and a team from across the entire district, started to create a mission and a vision statement and set goals. Then school closed in March and we did shift to virtual work. And within this slideshow there, I have links to the resources that we created while working virtually. Some great work got done despite us not being able to be together. We created a self-care website for our staff with the help of Julie Thomas to be able to have some resources for our staff, because we know that's part of trauma sensitive schools, is making sure staff are able to take care of themselves so they can best do their job. Then this year, we did initially a presentation that many of us from our team presented to staff on self-care, and we've sent out monthly newsletters to our BASD staff about trauma-informed practices, and our team will be meeting in May to look at next steps. So I did want to share that because that's part of the leadership as school counselors that we spent time on, and I know you had mentioned it at the last meeting, Roseanne, so I wanted to be sure to share. So our elementary and middle school counseling program, I'm going to let someone else take over for a little bit.
I'll take over. So we just wanted to highlight again our teams at the elementary level, and then the what will be the middle school level next year. We kind of are having some shifting and with going to K-5. So we feel at the elementary level, we consider ourselves to be laying the foundation of social emotional skills and teaching kids how to self-regulate in their emotions. And then intermediate and the middle school will continue to build on that, as we know emotions get pretty heavy and as kids get older. And so then we just wanted to also highlight the next slide that shows the different roles that we kind of have with counseling depending upon the age level. Elementary spends a majority of their day in classroom curriculum. So you'll see that there's a really big percentage there. And then it goes down as students get into middle and high school, and then other services go up. So, and of course, these are just estimates. This is what our American School Counseling Association recommends that we do, but it varies from school to school and district to district. As a goal, our goal is to spend 80% of our time in direct service and contact with students. So this kind of just breaks that down into some of the individual planning and services, and we'll talk about this throughout the presentation.
So one of the ways, especially as elementary counselors, that we reach our students is through classroom lessons, but that does happen at other levels as well, at the middle and the high school as well. But these are very valuable because they do reach out to every student in our schools, and it's a way to touch every student and make sure that they are meeting us, that they're getting to know us, that we're able to build relationships with them. And it also is used, especially in the elementary, as a preventative approach, so that we can teach them the skills that they need, social and emotional skills, to be successful as they go through life. Again, we're just kind of the building block at elementary, and there's a lot that goes past that level, but we try to give them a good foundation so that they are able to be successful. It also helps us understand the students better and get a better picture of what they look like in each classroom as well, because sometimes we're doing groups or meeting individually with them, so we wouldn't necessarily get that experience otherwise. The lessons are the largest amount of time that we spend with students during school hours. They take up most of our time because they are a way for us to get out and touch all those students. Starting next year, with having kindergarten through 5th grade at the elementary school, we plan to do 30-minute weekly lessons with each class. Twice a month, we meet with the 4K students to do more of a story time. So we would read a book to them and then, maybe do a couple of short discussion questions. But we do meet with the 4K students as well. Most of our lessons are based on themes, And so we cover things such as careers, social emotional regulation, character development, so that, we've touched on responsibility. I'm sorry, I just blanked. Friendship, safety. We touch on a lot of different character things throughout the year. We are working on aligning our lessons to the ASCA mindsets and behaviors that are developed by the American School Counselor Association. It's our state model as well. And so it's important that we make sure that we are meeting those standards. And so that is something that we've been working on doing. We're also looking at the social emotional learning standards for the state of Wisconsin, because we want to make sure that we are meeting those as well. We have also just recently started looking at the social justice standards from Learning for Justice to make sure that we are aligning those as well. And Melinda will talk a little bit about a program that we've been using to help us meet those standards. We use several different curriculums in order to teach students. We use things from Common Sense Media, which is like internet safety and stuff like that. We use lessons from Sanford Harmony, from the Listening Library program that we've been doing this year, the Zones of Regulation, and also Kelso's Choices. So we've done a lot of adaptation based on our response to COVID and virtual learning. And so we have all created virtual classrooms. And Melinda had a really good example that I believe she wanted to share real quick.
I don't know, Jenny, if you can click on it. So with the shift to virtual learning last year, just like most other teachers, we did our own classrooms as well. And so this is mine. And I know that the rest of the elementary counselors came up with something similar. We share a lot of things. So we share and put our own touch on it. But this is something that students are actually still using this year, and they use it all the time. We use it during lessons, or like this week or these last 2 weeks, I've been doing state testing, so I haven't been able to go into the classroom, but students still access my classroom. So the first slide is just ways that they can contact me. So we had digital check-ins that they could do, even though we couldn't see them in person, they could message us and then we could talk to them. So Jenny, I don't know if you just we don't have to go through every slide, but just kind of give an example. Just lots of different ways that we can, these are links to the lessons that we have, different stories. Every month we change the theme out.
Oh, sorry, Melinda.
Okay, YouTube.
They're coming on. I'm getting out of here.
Just lots of, it just kind of shows you an example of things, but the students just really, really like it. There's a calming page where they can do a lot of different activities to calm themselves. And we talk a lot about the zones. And so each of us have kind of done that. So even though we weren't in the classroom doing actual lessons, we were still able to reach our students this way. And then as Jean mentioned, and this was a board approved project from earlier in the year. So I think the board is familiar with this. But we started doing Listening Library this year as elementary counselors. Each of us are working with a different teacher from our school, and we're just focusing right now on whatever that teacher, their grade level. So I'm working with a first grade class at Waller. Jenny's working with 2 kindergarten teachers at Cooper, and then Jean is working with a second grade class at Winkler. And the Listening Library is through a series of books. We help schools promote the development of positive self-identity, cross-cultural communication, and social emotional learning skills. The books really encourage conversations about diversity and acceptance. Many of the titles of these books are books that we've used before, or we've definitely heard of, or we would use in our comprehensive school counseling lessons. So we feel that it fits right in. We've really, really enjoyed this program this year. We are really excited to expand it to other grade levels next year, since we were only able to work with the grade level that the teacher that they volunteered for this committee. We do think that some of the books could be better for older grades, and then the projects that go along with them could maybe foster a little bit more discussion as the students get a little bit older. So the next slide just has a list of all of the books that we're doing for this year. like I said, all of them I feel are very developmentally appropriate. I have a first grade student, or I have a first grade daughter, so I'm working with a first grade class, and they're all books that I would, as a parent, want my child to read, and I think they're all really great. And then there's just some pictures of the projects that we've done. So when we collaborate with the teacher, we one of us, it kind of depends on how we work out the schedule, but I start the week by reading the book to the kids, and then we do like a little presentation and have really good discussion. And then at the end of the week, the classroom teacher does a project with them that we work together. So these are a couple of the projects that we've done based off of the stories. And we have 3 left to do this year. We have Just Ask, Maybe Something Beautiful, and Say Something. So we'll be starting our next round of those books next week. So we've really, really enjoyed this program.
All right, I'm Becky Hosley, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the lessons that we do at Dyer Intermediate. For 5th grade traditional, and then 4th through 6th Montessori. One of the topics that we cover is growth mindset, really wanting to have students really kind of discover the difference between growth and fixed mindsets. So as they are going through different school subjects and all of the learning they do throughout the year, really hoping that they can apply, again, that growth mindset. So when something is difficult, as they're learning new information, as they notice maybe other students maybe catching on to a new idea, maybe sooner than they are, the ability to be able to think, you know what, maybe I'm struggling with this right now, I just don't have it yet. So again, trying to have more of that positive outlook, that with hard work and, you know, with being willing to ask for help when you need that from grown-ups around you, that you're able to kind of continue and persevere through. With that, they also then discover those strategies that they can use and think of things that maybe will help them on a day-to-day basis. We also started a couple of years ago with doing careers through BizTown. We've been doing careers long before that with our 5th graders, but then had learned about this opportunity. Actually, I think Jean had presented because her own children were doing it more in the Milwaukee area. And so she kind of presented to our counseling team, and we decided to kind of look more into that. And so there's several lessons that are done in the classroom setting through like teachers. So math, science and social, or math and social studies and ELA. Learning some day-to-day skills like balancing a checkbook, you know, application of math. The program really looks at having students apply what they're learning on a day-to-day basis into the world of work and careers. And so it's a great opportunity for them to learn about the day-to-day running of a business. And as you learn about those processes, they examine their skill sets and what might be a good match for them if they had a career in the business world. They get an opportunity to experience an interview. I know we've had some board members that have participated in that process. This past spring, we didn't quite make it to BizTown. We went virtual before that, but a number of our students were able to experience things up through that interview process. And we even had some high school students from Mrs. Glish's high school business classes at the high school were able to kind of come down. And of course, our students always think that the high school students are like the bee's knees. So they love that attention that they got from that as well, and just that experience. And then when the previous year, when we were to fulfill going to BizTown, it's just a great experience. They're there for the full day. And there are careers anywhere from mayor to CEOs to businesses, as well as, you know, down to the mailroom. And so students are running businesses in BizTown. There's about, I want to say about 14 or 15 businesses that are run through that. And so they do it with the help of adults and volunteers, but it's a great experience for them to see how that work can come to fruition. The Montessori classroom does that 4th through 6th grade. And they do that on a 3-year rotation. 6th grade traditional and 4th through 6th grade Montessori, we do a lot of career exploration. We use a program called Zello, which is a computer-based website. At our level, we do a lot of exploring interests and skills, and they then get to take those and start to explore what possible careers would be a great match for them, looking at interests, looking at skills that they already have. We also look at learning about the 5 of the post-secondary options, including apprenticeship, career technical college, community college, college university, and then military. Just giving them an opportunity to look at what are the different paths. Students will often ask, well, which one is the best one? And I tell them the best one is the one that gets you to the career that is a good match for you. So they have an opportunity to not only learn about these, but do a bit of compare and contrast and how these different options may fit and work for them. We also learn about, we do lessons on communication skills. As you know, a lot of our students, 5th, 6th grade and up, tend to communicate a lot on their devices. And so often kind of miss out on understanding all of the different social cues and communication cues that we get when we're face-to-face. So we try and really have them do some different activities to kind of see how that can be different and how impactful that can be when that's lacking. We are currently doing our social media safety and abuse prevention awareness. It's actually a program from SCAN through Focus Racine, and SCAN stands for Stop Child Abuse and Neglect. And we do programming throughout the district with this. I believe, correct me, elementary, if I'm incorrect, I believe 2nd grade and 4th grade at the elementary levels, and then 6th grade at our level. And it's just a nice way for students to learn about a variety of ways of being safe. And it kind of helps with the heavier topic to bring in somebody from the outside. So we coordinate that. And then I know the counselors at all of the levels, we are present during those presentations so that, we can kind of be there to support students as well, during as well as after those presentations if they have questions or concerns that come up.
Hi, everybody. Then when we get to the middle school level, at the beginning of the year, usually I pair this with our liaison officer. We do an electronic device awareness unit, and pretty powerful unit. We try to do this with both grade levels, an intro in 7th grade, and then kind of a review again in 8th grade since they had it the year before. Obviously, each year we do come up with issues with cyberbullying, harassment. So we talk about how to steps and plans, and a person that you trust. We get into the obviously social media part of that, and even we get into possession and distribution of inappropriate materials. So that kind of hits home with kids a lot, just in school use and out of school use with that device. As we kind of move on throughout the year, then we get into our career exploration that matches up with our district's ACP standards and goals. Also using DPI approved Zello, which the kids really enjoy at our level. We start developing a portfolio. They have built-in lessons that are fantastic that the kids are highly engaged in. And that career portfolio, they can carry right on into BHS and beyond. From there, we take that, the interest survey and the matchmaker skills assessment and things like that, and we take that into our career and college readiness lessons, which I then kind of pair with our planning of freshman scheduling. So that's where we develop a 4-year academic plan. That's where kids are doing their career pathways to look at ways that they can get to those career goals. So it kind of makes it real when they start choosing their high school schedules and how they're going to get there. And then finally, and usually in February, early March, we do our Signs of Suicide unit with our 8th graders, which they do get a little bit on a review their freshman year in decision making, but we introduce the Acknowledge Care Tell plan, and we discuss signs of depression and also signs of suicide with the kids in 8th grade.
So we talked about standards a little bit. One of the things we're looking at as a part of the listening library, and then looking at where our own school counseling, ASCA mindsets and behaviors and social emotional learning standards. We're looking at the learning for justice, social justice standards, and there's 4 areas of this: identity, diversity, justice, and action. And there's some information just about each of those. And so we're finding that the listening library lessons fit, again, very well with meeting these standards, and in combination with lessons that we've done and tweaked. And it's really, it's helped us combine those listening library lessons, some lessons from the Sanford Harmony curriculum, and a lot of these align together so that we expand upon kind of what we've done, but then really deepening the conversations within the classroom around these 4 areas.
All right. In addition to classroom, we also do small groups, and groups are offered through parent referral, staff referral, and student self-referral as well. And so some of the variety of topics. So coping skills is a group that allows to cover a wide variety of topics, and just allowing students an opportunity to talk about and learn about positive coping strategies to use when they feel stressed or worried or frustrated or angry. So it allows you to cover a wide variety of topics, but just kind of under the overarching umbrella of developing positive coping strategies and coping skills. Some more specific topics might involve friendship and social skills, and coping with anxiety and worries, as well as study skills. So again, sometimes there may be a need to just cover a more specific topic. More at the middle school level, I believe this year, the share group was started. And Steve can kind of share a little bit more about that. And then also, I know when I was at Karcher previously, kind of looking at the needs of students in our LGBTQ+ community, as well as allies, for people that were wanting to learn more about being supportive of our students in that community as well, and just making sure that their needs were being met and getting ideas from them on what they felt those needs were. And then at any time, whether staff or counselors are noticing any other topics that there seems to be a need to address in a group setting, then we can certainly add more topics as need be throughout the school year.
And as we kind of progress through the K model, more at the 7 and 8 level, a large majority of our time is spent with individual counseling, and which is a large umbrella. A lot of times we get a referral from a teacher or a parent, or what you hope to do is even a student-to-student referral where somebody's concerned about a friend. Large range of things that we talk to kids about, from friendship to stress to behaviors to anxiety to family issues, but it gives the kids a confidential place where they can come and discuss and hopefully maybe a lot of times it's an action plan that they have something that they can take with them if they're struggling in one capacity. So 7 and 8, we spend a lot of our time with our individual work.
So at the elementary level, there are a lot of different all school programs and activities that we spend time on. Jean, did you want to talk about them?
Yes, I apologize. I started and then I realized I was muted. So
I was trying to jump in. We help each other out.
Yes, I apologize for not jumping right in. So at all the schools, actually, there are all school programs and activities. And so some of the ones that we have at the elementary are the PBIS, or the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. They encourage students to have that positive behavior and to be encouraged by it and rewarded. And it's more of a short-term thing, but it's something that elementary students need sometimes in order to help them be successful, that immediate reward, that immediate recognition to kind of help get that behavior in place for them. There are also ambassadors and leadership groups at different schools. We have character-related assemblies that come to the schools, usually in person. I know this year's been a little bit different, but we've also been able to have buddy benches at all of the elementary schools. And so those allow students who maybe don't have someone to play with or can't connect with a group to go to those benches. And then students are told if they see someone on that bench, that means that they need someone to play with. And so students will then come up, and just a couple of weeks ago when I was outside at helping with recess at one school, that occurred. And it's nice to see the kids recognize, that they need to support each other and help each other in that way. There's a number of different playground things in place. There are also announcement programs at each school to address different character themes that we are teaching in the classroom. And so it's another way to reinforce what's being taught in the classroom on an everyday basis through announcements. There are also, as you can see, a number of other programs, including Red Ribbon Week. There are some career things going on at Cooper, and a vehicle day at Waller and Cooper. All of these programs are meant to both enhance and enrich the community at the schools and encourage positive behavior and teamwork.
Also programs at the intermediate and middle school levels. So at Dyer, we also have advisory programs that we do. And in previous years, we would have a monthly theme. And those we would post them in our daily announcements so that all teachers during their advisory time would be able to deliver those different lessons. This year we took a slightly different approach, and we had days like citizenship, goal setting, wellness, pay it forward. So every Monday was Citizenship Day, and so every Monday the lesson would be revolved around being a good citizen, being respectful, being responsible. And so that allowed us to kind of maybe spiral things maybe more throughout the school year. Sometimes when you have just a topic of the month, sometimes students can think, okay, that month is done, so now we don't need to think about that anymore. So that's kind of why we moved it more to the spiraling. And then career exploration. So I talked a little bit about the BizTown that we do for 5th grade. 6th grade, we had a couple of years where we were able to do a career camp where we focused on the 16 career clusters. And Andrea Donegan and I reached out to have community members that had careers within those 16 career clusters be able to have an interactive time with our 6th graders. And we rotated our 6th graders throughout, and they could visit any number of those spots. And it was great. It was interactive. They could really learn about careers and see them in action and ask questions about them. So it was a really positive experience. So the first year we did it in the spring, and luckily last year we happened to decide to do it in the fall, or we wouldn't have been able to have it last year. So it was nice to be able to have. In the past, we've had peer tutors where we have 6th graders working with 5th graders. Between COVID and having our 5th and 6th graders in 2 different spots, we were not able to do that this year. But then Peer Helpers is another leadership program in which some of our 6th graders who are nominated from their 5th grade teachers are able to help promote. They worked on like the Veterans Day programming, and then also just different things throughout the year, like Discovering Dyer. So they would help out on those evenings. And then throughout the year, just do a variety of different programs to help bolster positive experiences for all of our students. And then in the spring, we've done Service to Others, where each homeroom does something out in the community. It might be, helping out with planting flowers, say with some some community members, maybe doing some yard work. We visited some of our area nursing homes and did programming with them. So a wide variety of things so that students could really kind of see the efforts of giving back to others.
And as Becky said, for career exploration, the intermediate level, they bring the people to the kids and where they look at what options are. We actually take the kids then out to look at pathways. So we try to get our 7th graders on a Gateway campus. So we take them to the Gateway Career Expo, which is both in Elkhorn and in Kenosha. So all of our 7th graders get to see not only careers, but they also get to see what a Gateway campus looks like. So as we're looking at 2-year schools or technical schools or even military, as a pathway, they can have a little bit of a Gateway experience to go back on. And then our 8th graders, we try to get them on the campus of UWM. So obviously it's been difficult with the last 2 years, but we will continue to try to get them as years move on a full campus tour of UWM so they could see what a 4-year campus looks like, which was a great experience for them. And then we also have advisory units that we pair up with our advisories at Karcher, incentive activities, all school field days, and just various things that we do in correlation with our advisory and our positive behavior intervention plans. And obviously we talked about classroom and we talked about individual, and we talk about other things that make up our day, but we also play a large role in indirect services. This is where we work with our administration. We work with other obviously teaching staff and individuals where we have both proactive and responsive services that we are a part of. And that obviously is when you look at top to bottom, is pretty similar at elementary through 7, 8, but at each one of those, they change a little bit. And there's probably one that you do more at the elementary and one that maybe we do a little bit more of at the 7, 8 building. But that from all attending student services meetings, attending team meetings, parent meetings, data meetings. We're lucky to work with great administration where they keep us involved in all of those conversations, and we have open communication with our school sites and social workers, and we meet weekly and we talk about how we can meet our students' needs. We also are assessment coordinators, as Melinda kind of touched base with Forward happening here. So we do jump into the help with our forward assessments and our district assessments. And then a lot of part of what we do is transitions, and it's going to be a little bit easier not having that one transition now as we move to a 6-8, but a lot of what we do is help the kids get ready for that next step. So again, indirect services are both proactive and responsive, but we take pride, and a lot of this is what makes our days great.
We had to share pictures because, this is school counselors.
So these are just a few things, obviously none from this year, minus the pictures on the wall, because we can't gather that close together right now. But we are really excited to hopefully move back to some sort of normalcy when it comes to bringing in different assemblies and having different all school programs and doing those career things. The kids really enjoy it, and so do we. So, and like Steve mentioned, the transition piece is even bigger than ever this year, especially at the elementary level. We're all getting a little bit sad at this time of the year, knowing that our schools a lot of students are moving to different schools and teachers as well. So we're planning different committees right now, trying to help students transition as best they can and as easy as they can, because it's going to be hard for all of us. So, and then just any questions, it's called a comprehensive school counseling program for a reason, because there's a lot of stuff. So I know we took up quite a bit of your time and we appreciate that. But if you do have other questions and you can't think of them now or don't want to ask them now for the sake of time, we are more than happy to answer them at a later time too.
I have a question. Roseanne?
Sure.
Okay. I know when I taught, they had a program where when you had the small groups with elementary children, teachers could take a couple courses and then they could work. It was with alcohol and drug they would sponsor it and then we could get trained for that and we work with directly with the counselor with the kids. Do they still have a program like that? Did they discontinue it?
No.
No, no more.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was great. Roseanne, that was grant funded a few years back when I was in the classroom as well through AODA grants, where we could utilize staff members to get the training that you're speaking of, and then we're able to facilitate groups around alcohol and other drug abuse. And there are still some grants that exist out there, but that program that you're referencing is no longer in existence.
Too bad. Any other questions?
I just want to give a shout out to the team. I know that it was a lot of work to put this together. I appreciate the time that they took to do this and to sort of give us a view of all that they do to support our students. So thanks to the team.
I also want to say thank you.
Yeah, Barry, did you have something?
Looked like Barry had a question.
Yeah, I think we might have an in with Share. We might know someone there. Can we get a buddy bench for fire as well?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure. I feel like there might be, and Becky, is there one there, but it's not like outside on the playground quite yet, or I'm not quite sure, but yes, I would love it if we did. That'd be awesome.
Especially since Dyer will be elementary next year as
Yes,
well.
really important.
They'll be happy to give us one.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Well, again, thank you for all your
Thank
work.
you all.
the work that
Thank
you
you
do.
all for your continued support. We definitely appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, anyone else have anything? Steve, anything you want to add?
No, I just would simply offer my appreciation. I mean, we've been, I think, looking forward to this conversation and hearing from the counseling team for a while. So certainly your summary of all of the amazing things you do that seems just endless and tireless is tremendously appreciated. And please, when you are done, if you feel you want to log off, there will be no hard feelings if you don't stay for the rest of the meeting. Just understand that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. It was wonderful.
Thanks for everything you're doing.
Okay, moving on then, we will go on to the extended care program. And Steve, I know that you are the expert on this.
Well, I will not claim to be the expert on this. I will simply offer that I can introduce the topic. I really think the expert on the screen here is Connie Zinnin.
Okay.
And she will take this here shortly, but wanted to let the board know by way of review, we have had some conversations probably for a couple of years now, in the very least. You might recall when we're talking about school start times, one of the motivating factors really was how we can best manage extended care for our families. And so we've been pursuing this, trying to understand what that might look like if the district could get involved, potentially take something like this on. And to be very honest, with the closure of the Cathy Center this past fall, we felt an even greater sense of urgency. And so Connie's going to kind of talk you through where we've been on this front and the exciting proposal that really lies in front of us for us to move forward into the fall. So it's all yours, Connie. Thank you.
I don't have any big PowerPoint presentation, or this one isn't as long as the counseling one. So as Steve said, one of the things that we have heard from our families over the last few years is really just this need for expanded childcare services in our town. We have some great facilities. We have, I'm sure if I start to name them, I'll forget someone, so I won't do that, but we really do have some great partnerships. But nonetheless, we still hear from our families that this extended care is difficult for our families, especially our 4K students. They're kind of in a unique situation because those children come to school half a day, and then in the middle of the day, they either have to go to somewhere else or get transported to school if they're an afternoon 4K student, which really puts a hardship on families, that are working when we don't have that, the care for the 4K students. We've also noticed that we've lost some of our students in open enrollment when it comes to that 4K level because of that, because families are looking for places where they can either take their child with them to where they work, someplace that's closer to where they work that offers that childcare. So we really felt that this is sort of an opportunity for us to meet the needs of our families and to see what we could do to offer some extended childcare for not only before school and after school, but also for 4K. And so, as you may know, Plymouth has a site at Waller and Cooper, and they offer this before childcare and after childcare, but not for 4K students. And so with the closing of the Kathy Center, as Steve mentioned, which was a program that was running at Cooper, a partnership with the Burlington Area School District, Kathy was able to really fill that little niche, if you will, of 4K students. They embraced them, they took them, they were able to go to the 4K program there, and then either morning or afternoon, they were able to transition to their 4K programming pretty seamlessly. When that went away, many of our families were sort of desperate. They were saying to us, now what are we going to do? We're left trying to find, care for our children. And so we did say, based on that information, based on the fact that Kathy was closing, based on what we've heard from our families, what could we do internally to help with this need? So we started having conversations sort of just as a leadership team about what that might look like and whether or not we had the space now that we're kind of spreading out and we're going to be opening that 5th elementary, would we have a location where we could offer some services? And so we've identified Dyer as that location. We have a room selected. We've been working with Dan Bocock and some engineering to determine how we're going to make sure that that room is set up with the things that it needs in terms of a sink and storage and making it very child-friendly, easy access to an outside entrance, safety measures, so that we would be able to offer a program that would accommodate students before school and after school, but also that 4K student in the middle of the day who would need students. This is kind of a perfect opportunity for us as we've been sort of redrawing the boundaries for our district and know that there are a lot of shifts for families and really feel that this is, an opportunity for us to capitalize on that need. Since this would be fee-based and these families would be paying for the service of this care, we don't feel as though this would be a burden to the district to be able to offer this. We feel as though the cost that families would pay for the service would help to offset any staffing needs that we have. And so we feel as though it kind of be a win-win for everyone. So we have posted a position on WeCan for a supervisor for this position. It's gotten some interest, which is exciting. When I looked last, we've had several applicants there. And so in the next few weeks, we would be looking to hire for that position and start to really sort of formulate what that program looks like, the hours, the supplies, the resources that we would need to really fully equip that classroom. So we're excited about the opportunity and especially being able to offer this to our families, which we know is a great need. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm certainly not the expert, but I do feel really good about this and know that this is something that we have talked about for several years and wanted to make sure that we could meet the needs of our families. And this is just a great opportunity.
There really
is. Just to reiterate Connie's, thoughts here too. I mean, I do hope that, we see this as an exciting opportunity and one that provides a wonderful service and doesn't create a cost to the district. And so certainly, entertain any questions, comments, feedback as we look to kind of roll this out and forward. But yeah, really, really exciting. Sorry, Roseanne, you were just about to say something.
I think it's a great program. In fact, families have been wanting this for a long time and needed it. So I'm real happy that we're going to have this. It's time.
And Barry, too?
Just really quick, it's not super pertinent, but I don't recall, do 4K facilities need dedicated toileting facilities? Will the room need to have that, or can they go to a larger public?
Yep, great question. And they, because it's being run in a school setting and not a childcare setting, there are some regulations, for example, that a Plymouth or In His Arms or Noah's Ark, some things, regulations that they would have that we wouldn't have because we're a public school And so there's some things that we don't have to necessarily do that maybe a private group would have to do. However, we have situated and selected a classroom that is directly across the hall from the restrooms. And so we were very strategic about selecting that room. And like I said, easy access in and out from the playground, close to the restrooms, close to the gym. We think it's a really good location in the building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a comment. I just wanted to thank the administration and especially Connie. I mean, I think you've been, since we've introduced 4K to the district, I'm appreciative of your creativity and working with both within the district and our community partners to come up with great solutions for 4K. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Peter.
Anyone else with a comment or question? Okay, then we'll move on. I think Connie, you're on again. We're going to talk about the Wise Dash demo.
So I'll jump in here, Roseanne, and say, hopefully, this is okay with the board. And that is that since publishing the agenda, talking internally, we had hoped that you wouldn't mind as a board if we held off, until after the board reorganization, and then potentially had that kind of training, if you will, with the full new board in May. I certainly hope that's okay. And so we didn't prepare that demo for tonight, hoping that you might not fight us on that one.
Well, I'm sure we just gave Dr. Jill Oschlager a heart attack when you said that, Roseanne, because she was going to co-present on that.
Yes.
And, you know, we had decided, as Steve said, to postpone this till May. So when she heard you do that intro, I'm sure she was panicking.
You looked a little panicked too.
Well, I wasn't prepared either.
It wasn't on the current agenda. That's why I was confused.
Yeah, my agenda too. That's okay though. We'll be happy to see it next time.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I think we'll move on then to the preliminary budget information. And for that, we need Ruth.
Yeah, and as Ruth kind of unmutes and probably gets her screen share ready, just to, by way of reminder, this time of the year, April, there's always a desire for a high level sort of budget discussion. And so Ruth's going to, I think, do a screen share and start talking you through kind of where we're at. And then it will, I'm sure, bring forward some questions and curiosities about the current state. So with that, Ruth, are you ready?
I think so, other than I was just going to comment that when Roseanne said Connie was next, I thought she was going to take the budget section, and that might put her over the edge. So yes, I will attempt to screen share here. Yay, I think. So can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, this was also attached, I believe, both for the board and for the, under the public section. So I think everybody should have access to this. So as you know, budgets are fluid, they're ongoing, they constantly change. So we make our best attempt to always provide the most recent information that we can. But just realize that they are always changing. So what we want to do is just start with some of the provisions that Governor Evers released in his budget presentation back in February. A couple of the key items that are affecting school districts, we'll go through those here. So the first one is this general state aid appropriation. In particular for the equalization aid. It's not necessarily the equalization aid, the 2/3 that it used to be, but they still have that terminology that they use. So there was additional monies put into this appropriation, but the key point I want to make here is just because they are giving, the state is allocating more money here, that does not necessarily equate to new money for school districts. If we kind of look at this little graphic here, So as you know, we operate under this revenue limit formula. So this red line on the right here. So by putting more, when the state's putting more money into the equalization aid pot, all they are doing is moving this plus sign to the right a little bit. So it's not increasing our total new revenue. All it's doing is shifting this balance between the state equalization aid and the local property tax levy. So as we get more state aid, it would allow the local property tax levy to go down. So those are the two main pieces of that revenue limit. The way this revenue limit line would increase is this next section here, where they talk about increasing that per pupil allocation, perhaps by a certain dollar amount. Now, the governor has proposed to increase that $200 per pupil. If that were to happen, then this revenue limit line would move to the right. The equalization aid would move to the right, and then this property tax would still fill in the middle. If the $200 per pupil from Governor Evers were to actually be put in place, right now we're estimating, using an estimated pupil enrollment for next year, that would equate to about $586,000 in revenue for Burlington School District. However, that per pupil amount is always under great debate every year. I have seldom seen it in the final budget be what the governor proposes. It usually is scaled back some. So we've also looked at these other options here. We've looked at a 0 per pupil increase. So if it were 0, that would only be about $134,000 of new revenue from the revenue limit formula compared to $586,000. Here's a $50 increase would give us $135,000, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then $100 would give us $258,000, so kind of in between there. The reason the 0 and the $50 increase are really close is because under the revenue limit formula, there are a few, they call them hold harmless provisions. They are 1 year like exceptions that they let us add back before the revenue limit formula would actually decrease. So they give you a 1 year to adjust to anticipating the revenue limit to be lower in the following year. So there's two types. So the first type is this base revenue limit hold harmless. In basic terms, the whole revenue limit formula starts with what was your revenue limit the year before. So there's a lot more to it, but in general, the current year revenue limit before we factor in any exemptions cannot be less than it was the year before. So under the 0 or the 50, we get to do these 1 year add backs because we would otherwise be below where the revenue limit ended the year before. So that's partly why those numbers, the 0 and the 50, end up pretty much the same new money, about $135,000, is because we have this add back to keep it at that same base level. If that per pupil amount starts to increase to 100 or 200, then the new year base revenue actually increases. So there's no exemption that we don't have an add back. So the revenue limit actually does go up. Moving down here, the other exemption, which you've usually heard us talk about, is the declining enrollment exemption. So part of that formula, there's a 3-year pupil count or pupil enrollment average. if that 3-year average goes down from year to year, we get a 1-year add back of that amount times the per pupil revenue limit amount. So that add back under any of these 4 scenarios is very similar. It just varies a little bit based on the per pupil amount. So that would be an add back of anywhere from $203,000 to $207,000. Okay. This next section, just another, to make you aware, another provision in the governor's budget would be to allow us to use for the 2020 pupil count. So as part of that 3-year average, most school districts saw a decrease in their enrollment in fall of 2020. So this proposal would allow us to use for the 2020 enrollment, either the 2019 or the 2020 pupil enrollment, whichever would be more beneficial to the district. Sounds great, but the latest proposal I'm aware of is it's just a 1-year adjustment. It's not a recurring or an ongoing adjustment. So if they don't let us use that higher count for the whole time that 3-year average, or that's a factor in that 3-year average, it's not really going to make a difference for us at Burlington Area School District, because we have those hold harmless add backs that we would take advantage of anyway. So if you look at these numbers here under the various per pupil increases, you'll notice they're very similar to when we were using the 2020 count. They're only a few $1,000s difference. So a range of 133,000 to 590. Again, they're all just a few $1,000 difference. So that provision, again, unless they make it ongoing, the 1-year adjustment isn't really going to make it too much of a difference for us. Okay, so I think we can, in my mind, I'm kind of just putting that one to the side, that it's not going to be too beneficial. Then there's this per pupil aid. So this is actually aid that is outside of the revenue limit formula. So when we were talking before about the per pupil, revenue limit per pupil, that's how much within the formula, the revenue limit formula would increase. This is actually aid that's based on a per pupil amount, again, outside of the revenue limit, totally separate. So currently we are getting $742 per pupil. And now it's based on the 3-year average from the revenue limit, but again, outside of the revenue limit. The proposal is to increase that to $750. So that additional $8 per pupil for us would equate to about $26,000, and that would be new money. The other piece of that proposal is to add an additional $75 for each economically disadvantaged student. So if we look at the number of estimated students we have under our free and reduced meal price program, that would give us about $85,000 in revenue. That would be totally new, so I'm not sure how much traction it will have at the state level, but just know that's on the table. Then the last section here, it's kind of a big dollar, has the potential to be a bigger dollar amount, is to increase our state special ed aid percent from currently this year, it's right around 28%. Kind of hovered between 25 to 28%, 29% recent in the last several years, to increase that next year to 45%. I think the following year, the second year of the budget was estimated to go up to 50%. But even if we look at the 45%, that has the potential to give us this 1.1 million in new revenue. However, There always has to be a however, right? There's a little hurdle we would have to get through, all school districts would have to get through. There's a federal grant program under the IDEA. IDEA stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that has a regulation that's called maintenance of effort. So I don't know if you recall, under our general fund budget every year, we transfer money from general fund to the special ed fund to cover whatever's not covered by other revenue there. So mainly federal and state aid in the special ed fund. So that transfer from general fund to special ed this year's $5.3 million. Sounds like a lot of money, right? If we can reduce that by 1.1 million. However, that maintenance of effort provision, excuse me, in basic terms means that that transfer from general fund to special ed fund cannot be lower than it was the year before. So if our base is 5.3 million, it can't go below that. Well, we don't have $1.1 million in new special ed funds for next year. So because the state can't control the federal government unless there's some magic that we get a waiver, we would only be able to take advantage of about, probably about a third of that, about $340,000 before we would cap out on that transfer limit. The other option would be to claim less under the federal grant program so we could get more state aid. But the federal program is aided dollar for dollar. It's not a percentage limit like the state is. So more to come on that. That's going to be kind of a one to watch. That is not unique to us. That's most districts in the state that would be an issue for. So we'll have to just watch and see how that plays out.
Ruth, can I interrupt? Can I ask a question on that? And I understand the state aid or special ed aid is still up in the air. I mean, this is not, there's no guarantees it's going to happen at 45%. Would the district apply for a waiver with the federal government for that? It's fairly frustrating that that would keep us from potentially getting special aid money.
I'm not aware that that's a district by district waiver. I think that might have to happen more from the state level.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Peter, it's a great question because it would seem rational. But to Ruth's point right now, not only is it not something that districts can apply for, but even states can't apply for waivers of those federal obligations. It's one of the reasons that even though there were states that really felt like perhaps the high stakes assessments this spring shouldn't be given, there's no method, there's no vehicle for waivers. And so unless the federal government says we're going to offer a waiver to the states, you can't request one, and it just is what it is. And so one of the things that Ruth and I've probably had sleepless nights and early and late nights chatting about is how to potentially use mechanisms that are in place to find out how best to leverage sort of a pathway around maintenance of effort. And that, as Ruth said, that's what every district in the state's going to be looking at if in fact some of these dollars appear as proposed, but that's still a big if. And Ruth, I don't know if you're interested, kind of you're at a pause point in the presentation, if there are other questions from board members before you move, kind of switching gears a little bit into kind of BASD, the impact on BASD.
Sure, no, good suggestion. If anybody has any questions.
I think Barry's got a question.
So because we can't reduce what's transferred from year to year, if we get this in the budget and they take it out in a future year, what does that mean for us? Does that mean we have to maintain what was put into the budget in the first place? Or does that only apply to what we directly transfer into that budget?
It applies to our transfer. So that 5.3 million that we have from this year, so next year we can't go below that.
Right. So this potential, and I understand the numbers and the way they would shift and everything, this potential 1.159 million that they would potentially send us,
Right.
does that go directly into special ed, or does that go into our account and we have to transfer it in, therefore we have to maintain that transfer going forward?
That aid money would go directly to special ed.
Okay.
And reduce the transfer from general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So the only way to offset that then is basically to not claim any of the federal aid money or unnecessarily increase your cost to spend the new money that they gave us. Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Okay, now we'll start to kind of look at the expense side, and then we'll go through this chart here, kind of trying to pull it all together. So some of the main expenditure areas that we have, obviously staffing would be one of the biggest pieces of the expense side of our budget. So if we look at salary increases from year to year, we usually follow the state dictates what the annual consumer price increase limit is. So for this upcoming 21-22 school year, they have told us already that it's 1.23%. So we cannot go over that amount. So ultimately, if the board at some point votes to give all employees that CPI increase, that would be approximately $260,000. Okay, so again, this isn't any kind of promise. This isn't negotiating. This is just if this were to happen, that's the cost. Another piece to the salary puzzle is in our employee handbook, the teachers or certified staff, there's a provision in our handbook that talks about alternating years with lanes and steps. So their pay scale is a grid that has like credits and degrees across the top, and then we call them steps. In historical years, often steps would equate to a year of service. Because we're alternating years, they only get a step every other year. So it's doesn't really equate to years of service anymore, but just a way to move through the salary schedule. The salary schedule increases as it goes down. So as the steps get higher and you take more credits or more, get a degree, then the salary increases that way as well. So the upcoming school year is the opportunity for lane moves. So if you take credits or get a degree, you have the opportunity to move over on the pay scale if we're able to do that within the budget. Based on historical costs and kind of our knowledge of who we think is taking credits or working through a program, we're estimating that to be approximately $210,000. But if there are a whole lot of people taking credits and degrees that we don't know about, that could be as much as double. So again, kind of our best guess, which is often what budgets are. And then health insurance. We are still working through that process for a renewal, and we'll have that for you in a couple weeks or within the next month here. We do have, unfortunately, our trend of an unusual number of high-cost claims is continuing. So that has led to a 12% renewal rate. So if we do not make any plan design changes, and just for anybody that might be listening, our current plan design has a $5,000 single deductible and a $10,000 family deductible. So if we don't increase that or make any changes, the 12% renewal is a $500,000 cost. So in addition to those three things, there are obviously other costs that are still going up, like any utilities or purchase services. I think we're going to talk a little bit later tonight. There's a textbook adoption that we need to do. So all those other costs continue as well. So in this chart here, we're going to go through this and just try to pull all those pieces together so you can see what that kind of looks like here. Again, I want to remind you that budgets are ongoing. They constantly change, pretty much at this time of year, almost daily. So this chart is kind of a snapshot in time, and it's also one possible scenario, those multiple combinations of ways that we can pull this together. So across the top here, we have the 4 different revenue limit per pupil increase amounts that we talked about at the beginning. So in this, the numbers in green are the revenues. So this first line, the revenue limit formula, those are just the 4 amounts that we talked about under each scenario. If the per pupil amount would increase. This $26,000 across the board, that's if that per pupil amount outside of the revenue limit would increase from $742 to $750 a student. This $85,000, that's the additional $75 per economically disadvantaged student that Governor Evers proposed. And then this $341,000 is if we could take advantage of, and also making the assumption that the special ed aid percentage would increase. So those are kind of the knowns or the best guess, best case scenario on the revenue side. So then here is the this bold number here, the possible new revenues. So under $0, a $0 per pupil revenue limit increase, potentially $587,000 in new revenue, up to the $200 per pupil under the revenue limit, possible new revenues of just over $1 million. Okay, makes sense so far? If we continue down then and look at the expenditure side of it, these first 3 are the ones we just talked about. So that CPI wage increase at 1.23% would be the $260,000. And that would be the same under any of these scenarios. The lane moves we were estimating at $210,000. Again, that would be the same. The health insurance, there's the $500,000. And then all the other expenditure increases, we just put them all in one total here, just an early estimate of $324,000. So we're estimating costs could potentially go up almost $1.3 million. So then if you look at the difference between the possible new revenues and our estimated expenditure increase, this is the deficit that would result under the 4 scenarios. So anywhere from minus $700,000 to minus $250,000. So kind of falling short under no matter which scenario we look at. So either we have to adjust our costs or hope for more revenues.
And just a couple of other quick little kind of tidbits there. the health insurance increase, we are still actively working hard to negotiate that, draw that down,
Yes.
leverage any possible means by which we can get that number to go down. It's just FYI for the board. And also to really be looking carefully and inspecting, other expenditure increases as well, how we can drill into that further. And then to really, truly kind of understand that there's this sort of structural deficit that every year we're staring at, just CPI lane movements and health insurance is about $1 million. If our expenses continue to grow by $1 million every year, just based on those three things, much less anything else, but the revenue is not keeping pace, there's this ongoing structural deficit that we've been experiencing. And so the next portion of this, when we maybe get any questions on this part, we'll talk about some of the ways in which we believe we can draw down those expenditures to reduce that structural deficit.
Good.
But just any questions the board might have before, because now this is another kind of phase of the presentation for Ruth.
Well, I think kind of to our point that we were talking about last year, I think we kind of, excuse me, knew that this, I don't want to say new, but I think we kind of somewhat prepared and prepped for this type of scenario again. I remember we having a conversation about this last year with this possibility. So
yeah, for sure. And Taylor, to your point, we went into the 1920 school year, last school year, thinking that we would probably end the year with a deficit budget of approximately 227,000 that the board had approved to use fund balance. We were throughout the course of that school year able to reduce expenses so that we ended the year in the black and did not have to tap into fund balance. This year in October, when we finalized the budget, the board had authorized up to, I think, 1.1 million in the fund balance. A lot of that was to cover costs associated with COVID and virtual learning, et cetera. We will talk here, as you can see on the screen next, about ESSER funding and how that will potentially, or almost for sure, create a scenario where we will end this school year in the black as well. So those are positive outcomes to a couple of cycles where we did in fact know and predict that this challenge was going to continue. And so, absolutely, you're spot on that we sort of anticipated this.
all right, thank you.
Yep. And just a quick follow up on that. This is pretty much the exercise every year. Pretty much every year is a structural deficit, which is why we constantly have to look at adjusting the expenditure levels. So it's not just a 1 or 2 year concern, it's kind of an ongoing concern. Okay, so we talked about, no, we didn't talk about, one thing you may have heard about is what's called ESSER, this Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief Fund, or the COVID relief funds that the federal government keeps touting. You can see all these other acronyms here that they keep calling it. There's a first round, a second round, a third round that could potentially help us for the next couple of years. The caution there is that it's great that we're getting extra money, but they're not available to necessarily help us with like long-term ongoing costs. They're kind of one time or these short-lived costs, like if for like COVID prevention and response, like the PPE and the cleaning materials. This third round, this most recent one, they want us to set aside 20% for learning recovery. So maybe some additional services specific to that, again, that are short-lived for maybe 2 or 3 years. They're not intended to be ongoing funds to help us with our operating budget, so to speak. So just wanted to throw that out there that yes, that you recognize that money is there, but it's not necessarily available to help us with our operating budget.
And so to Ruth's point too, we want the board to be kind of considering how you may wish to address these kind of ESSER dollars. The round one by way of review was last summer. That was about $340,000 that came into the school district. And as you know, when we were preparing to start this school year, that money was essentially spent before it even was available in terms of costs to prepare the buildings, cleaning supplies, PPE supplies, technology, et cetera. ESSER 2 was the dollars that the Trump administration signed just before the holidays. And that was approximately 1.5 million. Those are dollars that we believe are going to help offset costs of some of the virtual offerings and other things that went on throughout the course of this school year, specifically in terms of COVID and safety mitigation. And the final round is now the Biden administration from just a couple of weeks ago. And that is estimating for BASD to be approximately 3.4 million. And that will have 3 school years of opportunity. It will be the 21-2, 22-3, and 23-4. And so it's likely that will be a conversation for Finance Committee to really talk about how you may want to leverage those funds moving forward. So we'll be revisiting that for sure as we learn more about kind of just how that's going to kind of roll out to schools and what sort of stipulations and expectations will accompany it.
Nope. Thank you for that additional commentary there. Nope, that's good. It's good. So then the last piece we kind of wanted to talk through is the staffing piece. So as you know, we talked about that staffing is the biggest part of our budget. So one thing we try to look at every year is the student to staff ratio. So often from year to year, it might change just slightly, maybe like a 0.2 of a full-time equivalent, a small amount, but over time, we're realizing that can kind of add up to some a significant change. So that's what we want to try to go through in this chart here. So I'm first going to focus on just this 2007 column. So we chose that year because that was kind of a high point in our student count history. So the September pupil count is what's used in the revenue limit formula. So that's usually why we refer to the September, use that number. So in 2007, that pupil count was 3,632. Then if we look here under, for just regular ed instruction only, the certified staff full-time equivalent. So full-time equivalent, not everybody works a full-time 40-hour, 100% contract. If somebody maybe is only working 3 days a week, that would be a 0.6 FTE or a 60% contract. So that's why we kind of have these odd numbers, because we do have some people that have partial contracts. But in 2007, the Fund 10 certified staff, we had 213.52 FTEs. So if you do that math, that equates to 17.01 students per instructor. Okay. So then just down below here, this second number is regular ed and special ed combined. Just because so here that combined number is 265.62 teachers and certified staff, which then has a lower student to staff ratio of 13.67, because often the special ed classes are smaller. Okay, so now if we look at that same thought process for 2020, this most recent fall, we had The enrollment student count is down to 3,001, so 600 less students. If we look at the regular ed certified staff, we have 192, which sounds logical, right? The student count went down, so the number of teachers goes down. Here then we have a student to staff ratio of 15.63. So you can see that's gone down. Again, it's probably happened a little bit every year. It's not been in big chunks. Similar situation here then with the combined with the special ed, we have 245.83 here. So again, the number of staff went down logically. And that staff to student ratio here is now 12.2. Okay, now continuing on, we want to look at using the 2020 student count, but then saying, well, what if we still had the same student to staff ratio of 17 instead of 15.63? So if we have in this column the 17.01 staff to students, we're going to kind of back in to the number of teachers. So that would be 176.43. So again, if we had the current year pupil enrollment to get to the same staff to student ratio as 2007, we would only need 176 teachers. So then this far right-hand column, the possible impact, that's a difference of 15.6 full-time equivalent in teachers. This isn't support staff, this is just teachers and certified staff. So you can kind of see, 15.6 to 17 doesn't sound necessarily like a whole lot till you start carrying out the math, and that gets to be a big number. And then down here, again, same thing, just combined with special ed. If we try to use the 2007 staff to student ratio, then we back into the number of certified staff would be 219. So here you can see the difference is 26 staff members. So there's no magic. There's no right answer to what this student to staff ratio is. It's whatever we think is reasonable, but I think what this demonstrates is that we do think that there's some adjusting that we can do that would help the budget, which is then kind of what this last section is talking about, that it would be our intention, our plan, a recommendation to try to adjust this staff to student ratio to increase that a little bit over time, closer to that 2007 ratio, but to do it mainly through attrition. So not to go do mass layoffs, but to do it through attrition where we can, that every time somebody would leave, we would just consciously think through that. Is there a way we can not replace that person?
Yeah, I just want to offer my appreciation. I thought, Ruth just did a fantastic job talking us through that chart, and really, there sometimes people talk about right sizing, that over time, numbers just don't seem to match to what they once were. And granted, this is very complex. It's a very dynamic reality. There might be positions that exist today that didn't exist back in 2007. And as Ruth said, there's no magical number. And yet we definitely feel like there is some room whereby we can make some reductions and be a little bit smarter and more efficient in staffing. And so, for example, the Personnel Committee earlier saw a handful of resignations and a couple of retirements. And what you'll start to see is we won't necessarily be bringing an equal amount of appointments back to the board. Because if there are places where we can shift really make sure that we're being effective and efficient, then we can bring this number a little bit closer to that ratio. And again, whether or not it's a reduction as is posed in the possible impact column, maybe it's not 15 staff members right away, but maybe it's 5 this year and 5 next year. And it kind of works back over time when we can do that and then start to reduce those expenditures to be more in line to where the revenues are at. That would be the hope.
Steve, can we just clarify that the ratio is not necessarily associated with class size? Because sometimes that can be confusing, that when someone looks at that ratio as, 1 to 17, thinking that's one classroom teacher to 17 students, we just have to remember that the staff ratio includes all certified staff, school counselors, interventionists, all of those administrators. So it really includes everyone, and it isn't meaning.
Yep.
Exactly. I just want to clarify, because sometimes that can be confusing when someone looks at that and thinks that, well, I've never seen class sizes with 17 or 13. I just wanted to clarify that for anyone who might not normally see this chart.
Absolutely. Thank you, Connie.
So I'm sorry, just real quick. So your plan potentially, obviously, is not to reduce 26.3 FTEs all just at once. Your plan is to gradually, slowly do that, maybe potentially over the course of maybe 1 to 2 to 3 years, given, as you just said, where the numbers are at.
Absolutely. That is spot on, Taylor. And I think what makes this year unique, actually, is that because of the grade reconfiguration, we've literally had conversations about every single teacher, support staff position in every building all across the district. And it's been necessary to build out the new teams, both vertically and horizontally at each of the schools, as Dyer becomes elementary, and now it's one of 5. We've had to be very, very thoughtful about, even as you heard the counselors, like, well, this year I'm here, and next year I'll be here. Like, as we've done that, we've really, by touching every single position, been able to kind of look and be very thoughtful about, what people are doing, where they're at, how the efficiencies of the maybe new middle school that don't perhaps exist today. And so, right, it would be an overtime adjustment that is just kind of a slow, steady awareness to get back to something like this.
And I know, again, you're just primarily just talking about certified staff, but what about the potential impact of non-certified staff?
It's very much the same. And in fact, the place where we're really kind of digging in and rolling up our sleeves is looking at, frankly, the balance between full-time aides and those that work part-time, and those specifically folks who are supporting students with disabilities. And that has been an ongoing conversation. As you know, I think there's been a move over time, frankly, to hire more part-time people. And I think our assumption now moving forward is that we may be better suited to have people who work full-time and to really kind of play through that scenario. So for example, I think as part of personnel this evening, there were 6 aides that were leaving or retiring. And the chances are we may look to replace folks, with a full-time position or have student support looking a little bit different, but not replacing aides in the same way. We've done the same thing where we've pulled every single student with a disability, reviewed IEPs, talked about the support that they need, and then whether or not, sort of how those positions tally up across the schools. So Kathy Merlo and her team have been very, very busy doing that. And I think that we will see some reductions in the support staff side as well. But again, nobody losing a job, but when there is someone who leaves, then we look at that position a little bit differently.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. I don't know what we would do. Oh, Diane, you have a question?
Sorry, Roseanne. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
With the September pupil count of 3,001, Do you expect that to jump up once things are more normal though? Or is that pretty much what you're predicting that the 2021-22 year would also look like?
Yeah, I don't think, we're not anticipating it to be much different. If anything, it might be a slight decrease.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, again, thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, next we're going to move on to the Karcher Theater, and these next items are items for action. So let's begin with the Karcher Theater, and I think that's Becky Sagadol is going to work on that, and Dan?
Yeah, Roseanne, thanks. I think Dan's going to kick us off, and then Becky and he have a short presentation, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd first just like to thank all you folks for having us here tonight. We will be discussing Karcher Theater. If you're not aware, Karcher Theater is a program run through the Community Education Department. It currently ran through the auditorium at our old Karcher Middle School. And as part of the referendum, we were looking for creating spaces and for all the needs of the district to have these spaces. With us tonight is Becky Sagadol. She is our communication education director, or sorry, our community ed director. And she'll give us a brief overview of the program, and then I'll chime back in towards the end of it.
Thanks, Dan. Like Dan said, I'd like to thank the members of the board for welcoming us here tonight. We're grateful to be here, and as he mentioned, I am Becky. I'm the director of the Community Education Department, and I'm here on behalf of Karcher Theater tonight. I'll be sharing a brief history of the program and what we are and who we are. And if you give me a brief moment, I'll share my screen so we can start this little presentation if I know how to do this. All right. One second. All right. Does everybody see?
Got it. Looks great.
All right. I did it. Yay. All right. So what is Karcher Theater? I do know there's a few of the board members who are familiar with us, and there may be a number who are not. We are a program offered through the Burlington Communication Department that provides students in grades K through 8 an opportunity to participate in all aspects of live theater. The majority of our participants are, the performers, but we love the behind the scenes people too, and welcome them to our program, doing the sound and the lighting and backstage important work. Our first production was in the fall of 2015. That was Aladdin Jr. When Karcher Theater started, we were super fortunate to be given the auditorium at Karcher as our venue. It was basically a space dedicated to us. We had storage, a workshop, like stadium seating. We were really lucky to find that venue. We have 3 awesome directors with youth theater experience. Our lead director is Paula Lovreen, and we have 2 co-directors, Renee Grieger and JJ Fredrickson. Between the 3 of them, they will spend between 350 to 450 volunteer hours of their time each production, depending on the scope of the production. It's quite amazing the amount of time they put into it. We have 2 full productions per school year with a total of 11 thus far. We were slated to have our 12th production last spring, which was going to be The Wizard of Oz. But as we all know, we were shut down and we were halted, but we are excited to hopefully perform it this summer. We're going to have a few changes in the cast, but Paula's ready to go and start practices up as soon as school is out. Karcher Theater provides the children from Burlington and the surrounding communities an experience that builds self-confidence and communication and presentation skills, teamwork, creativity, along with many other important life skills. The great thing about Karcher Theater is that it's financially self-sustaining and income generating to the community ed department. We do know a name change is in our near future, obviously. We're excited about that. Even I'm anxious to know what Paula probably has up her sleeve. We will collaborate together, I'm sure, and come up with a name that is great. And it will be a little while to learn to call it something different, as it is Karcher Theater and always will be, kind of, but I'm excited to see what we come up with. Without the strong parent and community involvement, it would be tough to offer Karcher Theater. I will say it truly takes a village to do this. We have spouses, parents that do costumes and set design and set build. We're really, really fortunate to have the parent and family involvement. Six years ago, Paula Levine approached the community ed department with a plan in place that she was very passionate about. She envisioned a youth theater group offering the children in surrounding communities and their families the opportunity to participate in all aspects of live theater. You can see in this slide shown here that in the sampling of numbers, you can see the growth in the participants from when we started in 2015 to where we are now. You see growth in participants and audience attendance, and also in the revenue that it's brought in. One of the goals of Karcher Theater is to make it very affordable to families. We charge only $55 per participant and an additional $20 for a costume fee. So super reasonable. After those fees, the community ed department, we keep 15% of each registration fee, and then 10% of the audience attendance, the ticket sales, and 10% of the concession stand revenue that's brought in during those public performances. The remainder of the revenue is then used to offset the cost of the costumes, the props and the supplies, scripts, royalties. We do t-shirts for the cast. So therefore, that's what makes this program completely self-sustaining. Let's see. Shown here are just a number of the testimonials that we've received from participants and families over the years, and some more recently. I'm not going to sit and read them all because the board does have a copy of this, but there is one that I do think I would like to highlight, as it is kind of especially highlights the program. Aaron Z says, the Karcher Theater Group has been an influential and significant part in the lives of both of my children. Through the theater and the process of putting together productions, my children have learned about commitment, dedication, teamwork, leadership, pride, and hard work. And if you take the time to read the rest of these, it's a lot of the same thing. It talks about how we're a wonderful feeder program to the high school, just what an impact Karcher Theater has made on a lot of these kids. And I can say that there's kids that started in 2015 that are still in the program. And I don't think they'd stay unless they've had a really great experience. So I give kudos to our directors. They're an awesome group of ladies. Let's see, although the current venue no longer is going to exist for Karcher Theater, we still would love to continue to offer the children in the community the benefits of this valuable program. With your support, we can maintain production levels, program momentum, and participant engagement. We can remain a feeder program to the high school and the fine arts program there.
So I'll take over now. We've met several times. I know Becky has met with the Ravines. I've met with them on occasion. And we discussed different buildings where we could put this program at. We found that Dyer Elementary School, with its stage and with the folks that run this through community education, that this would work well for them. We were able to locate storage for them. And then we met on the stage to kind of look at how the shape of it was. We determined that there is some needs there for this program. The needs that we saw were stage curtains, the audio system needing upgrading, and the stage lighting. So we discussed this, and then we talked also about if we do these things that it'll not only benefit the program, but it'll benefit the building and the staff and students that use Dyer Elementary School as well. So after these few meetings, myself and the Ravines got some different bids, and we could go to the last slide. There was several different scenarios that we went through, from reusing some equipment that's at Karcher to buying all new, and kind of am still in the process of, soliciting numbers from, several vendors to see which would be the best route. So there is basically there's like a minimum if we, reuse the stage curtains from Karcher, if we just do a slight upgrade to the audio system and reuse lighting, it was approximately around $43,000. If we buy new stage curtains, buy audio system that has complete functionality for this sort of program and for the gym, and then all new stage lighting, we were somewhere between right around in that $111,000 range. And after meeting with them, I felt that this was something that we should bring to the board. It would be good for it to, for you folks to hear about the program again. And like Becky said, I know a lot of you have gone to it. So I felt also that this was something that is a need for the school district. And with that, I first would like to open up if there's any questions that you guys have, and then we could discuss more.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, just really quick too. Appreciation both to you and Becky. I wanted to also remind the board that, one of the things that's been going on for the last, 6 months, 12 months is that, post-referendum, we've really been working hard internally to find permanent home spaces for every activity and program that the district uses. And so that extends to our partnership with Oscillero and early childhood. It extends to decisions you made about location for Project WIN, for Fox River, the district office, the extended care program that you just heard about at Dyer, and the full housing of the Montessori program at Dyer Elementary as well, are all examples of decisions that have been made along the way. Dan and Becky have been working on this really for quite some time in terms of a permanent home base for Karcher Theater, knowing that it probably wasn't going to be in the new Karcher, just given the design of the building and the layout and budgetary restrictions. So one of the reasons that we're bringing this to you now is we believe we're far enough along in all of the construction projects where we know that there may be some dollars that are either contingency funds, funds from interest, or funds from savings on other projects, where we can comfortably assure you that the dollars are there to cover this should you approve this and tell us to go ahead and move forward. So just prior to any other questions, wanted to add that little tidbit in there as a helpful nugget for the board as well. But certainly for Becky or for Dan or myself, any questions that you may have. Otherwise, we'd hope that the board would make a motion and tell us to move forward with working on that stage to have a permanent home for Karcher Theater.
I move we go forward with the relocation of the Karcher Theater program to Dyer.
Second, Taylor.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move on with the movement to from the Karcher up to Dyer. Any discussion or questions? Are we making the motion on the minimum or the maximum amount?
That was going to be my question, Roseanne. So thank you. I don't know, Barry, if you'd want to address that in your motion, that maybe kind of a dollar figure that you're comfortable with.
Well, I guess that was part of the discussion after the motion was made. Obviously, we don't need to, the favorite word in the community is the Taj Mahal. We don't need the Taj Mahal here, but I also don't want to shortchange the program. I truly believe that the theater program within our district is a fantastic asset to the district and the surrounding communities, and I want to see us do it right. So I'd like to think we can fall somewhere between the bare minimum and the ultra maximum and accomplish good things.
Any more
And
discussion?
are you at all comfortable addressing where you think that happy medium might be? Because I know you've done a lot of research on this.
Yeah. My mind with where we were going and with looking at all the different bids, if we could be somewhere in that 70 to 80,000, I think it would be an appropriate amount of money to get, get the needs for the program. And like you said, not maybe necessarily have, the Cadillac or the Taj Mahal, but still have everything that's functional for the program, and then have it functional for, Dyer staff as well. Cause it'll help all students, not just the program having, a system that's up to date and that is more user-friendly. We could use it for presentations and anything else there. So
do you need an amendment to the motion then, not to exceed 90,000 as just a rough number?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, I make amendment to the motion for the price not to exceed 90,000.
Second.
Okay, we have to vote on the amendment. The amendment is not to go above 90,000. Any more discussion on that? This is just voting on the amendment.
I'd just like to chime in too, just to say, I know Dale and Paul Levine, they're smart and practical, along with Dan, who I put in that same category. So I think they're going to make this happen and make it do it well too.
I agree.
And cost effective.
yeah, and just so you folks know, after this, I will get, RFPs out to, different music or different lighting and different companies, so that, because these will be over our threshold. So I will have to go back in front of the board for approval.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, then if you're in favor of the amendment of moving it up to 90,000, Toby, would you read the roll?
Roseanne?
Yes.
I think Kevin left. Susan?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to thank all of you. I can speak on behalf of all of the other directors, the families. They are very, very grateful, as I am, and this is just a wonderful program, and I'm so happy it can continue. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. We'll look forward to seeing the plays.
Thank you.
And can I add one thing too? Becky and Dan, thanks for your work on this. It personally touches my family, as I got a couple of kids who've been through the program and one who's still going to be at least for another year. So thank you. It is a great program.
It certainly is. Okay. Now we voted on the amendment. I think we have to vote on a motion now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Robert, okay, so who would like to make the motion that we go with 90,000, not to exceed 90,000?
Oh, well, that's just an amendment to the original motion, so we just have to pass the motion now.
Okay, let's pass the motion. All in favor of the original motion? Which, well, repeat the motion so we all understand what it is.
So Barry made a motion to move forward with the Karcher Theater project moving to Dyer.
Okay, without a dollar amount.
Correct. And then
Okay.
Taylor second that.
So in totality, the new motion is relocating the Karcher Theater program to Dyer at an expense not to exceed $90,000.
Okay, and is that seconded? It was.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote unless we have more discussion. Anyone have anything, questions or comments? Okay, Toby, we'll vote.
Roseanne?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Look forward to that. All right, our next subject is Start College Now and Early College Credit Program. And I think this is one we know we have to do.
Yes, and thank you, Dan. Thank you, Becky. I know they're going to sign off. And this is, I believe you've met at different points in time. Emily Boyd, one of the associate principals at Burlington High School, and this is her wheelhouse. And so she's got the floor to talk through the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program. Thanks for waiting, Emily.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So just a refresher, the Start College Now program is a partnership with the state's technical schools, and the Early College Credit Program is a partnership with the four-year universities. So this past fall, we had 25 students take 43 credits, and they were able to get credit in 38 of the 43 credits that they signed up for, which was excellent. Moving into the spring, we have 32 students who have requested 66 courses for a total of $33,479. Our most popular courses are the criminal justice courses through Gateway, our CNA course, which we're fortunate enough to run here at the high school, welding and dental. So moving forward, there's going to be 122 credits ideally taken through the tech schools and 68 taken through the four-year university schools, again, for a total of $33,479.
Okay.
Questions about that?
Yeah, just a quick question. Are there any courses that you do not approve?
We don't approve courses that we offer something very similar here at the high school. So I didn't approve a couple of autos courses because Nick Schulman down in our autos department offers the exact same coursework that here at the high school.
Okay. All right, excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Yeah, Barry.
If we offer the exact same coursework, can we utilize our partners to get certified so that the students that take it at Burlington can get college credit for it?
Yep, we are in the process of getting transcripted credit through Gateway for our autos programs. Yep.
Fantastic.
Oh, very nice.
It's a pretty impressive list of courses, and one jumped out at me. Someone's taking organic chemistry as a freshman or as a high school senior. Oh my goodness, that is.
Well, one thing I also noticed too is that a lot of the courses, there's a lot of focus again on the trades, so that's nice to see as well.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'll look for a motion to pay for the College Now and Early College Credit Program.
I move we go forward with these Start College Now credit programs for next year at the costs noted by Emily.
Second by Taylor.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program at the price that was indicated. Any discussion? Okay, then we'll have a vote. Toby?
Roseanne?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great programs. Thank you for working with that.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, next we have the curriculum adoption and K-6 social studies. So Connie?
Now can everyone see that and hear me?
Yes, we've got audio and video.
Yeah, it works best when both of those things are working. So, so I appreciate everyone's patience. I know this has been a long night and I will try to, I don't want to rush through this, but I also will be sensitive to the time that we have, but do appreciate the opportunity to share with the board 3 curriculum recommendations that I have. Obviously, since we're meeting virtually, I don't have materials to share. Generally, I would bring them for you and you would be able to peruse them as I was speaking. But just want to remind all of you that I do have the materials at the district office. So please feel free at your convenience. They're set out. You don't need to make an appointment with me. Everyone in the office knows where they are. And so please don't hesitate to come by if you'd like to look at them. The elementary teams have really been very busy this year reviewing several curriculum resources that were either in need of review because the materials were very old and outdated and didn't align to new standards, or they were really an area of need that we identified where some achievement was not where we wanted to be, such as the case is with phonics. So those are the curriculum we'll be talking about this evening are the social studies and phonics. Just want to share here that we have our K-5 Socials Adoption Committee, and these are members of our staff who volunteered. They're from each of the grade levels. We also had our essential skills team members participate. These team members spent a great deal of time reviewing materials, listening to the presentations from the companies. They facilitated conversations with all of their colleagues to get feedback and work together. So I really just want to give a shout out to all of the teams for all of the adoptions who spent a significant amount of time investing and ensuring that we're selecting the right programs for our kids. So the K-5 social studies team, we looked at 4 programs. We looked at My World, which is by Savvis, which is formerly Pearson. We looked at a program called Impact by McGraw-Hill. We looked at Discovery Social Studies by Discovery Education, and a program by Houghton Mifflin called Into Social Studies. After reviewing all of the materials, hearing the presentations, as I said, seeking feedback from their colleagues, the team selected Into Social Studies by Houghton Mifflin for grades K through 5. So that is the program that was selected by the team. Reasons for selecting this particular program: it is an inquiry-based program. It uses primary resources, allows, of course, encourages students to think and act like historians. There are a lot of integrated activities and projects. It does align to both the social studies and ELA standards. There is a lot of nonfiction content, which supports all of our work around literacy. Very flexible program in terms of teacher time. So this was something that was really important to all of the teachers, that it was a program that would allow them, given various amounts of time that they had, could they do the program and do it justice for kids? And that was really important to have that flexibility. There are resources that are both available both in print and digitally, which was also something very important. And then another piece was that there were a lot of resources and suggestion to support all learners, including our English language learners, and then those students who struggle perhaps with reading difficulties. So really that ability to be able to differentiate and provide resources that meet the needs of all learners. So those were strengths of the program. I'm not going to share this video. I'm going to share the presentation with you after tonight, and then you can watch this video, but for time's sake, I won't share it. It really is just kind of showing you the program provided by the company. It gives some testimonials from educators, and you can see some kids using the program. It's a nice short little video that you can watch on your own, but I'll skip that for this evening and just move forward since it's been a long night and there is still a lot to talk about. Houghton Mifflin has a lot of partnerships with Google and HMH field trips. So there's opportunities, as you will see when you watch the video, where kids actually get to experience these videos where they feel that they are on a virtual field trip, if you will. And so there's some exciting partnerships that Houghton Mifflin has that really bring social studies content to life for kids. One of the really fascinating things that the teachers liked about this program was the use of these individual magazines. Unlike what we might have had in social studies, they're a large, thick textbook. This is not like that. This is magazines. There are various magazines for each grade level. Depending on the grade level, there are 8 topics for each magazine. These magazines are consumable, so kids can write in them. They get to take them home when they're done with the unit. These magazines can also be accessed digitally. which is exciting. So students can have it in their hand as a hard copy. They can also have it digitally. The digital format allows the text to be read to students. So again, supporting students who might have difficulties with reading, they are able to have an audio text of the book. There's a highlighting option where students can highlight text that they've read. They're also able to make annotated notes digitally and to be able to refer back to them when they're studying. So it really is flexibility, and these magazines, like I said, are small, short, easy for kids to handle, and really very interactive and engaging. Also, when the kids are working in the digital platform, there's even hyperlinks that they can click on. So there would be dioramas, and there would be 360-degree sliders that the kids could move. So the digital even brings more things to life for kids. So when you see this presentation, when I send it to you, you can certainly click on it. It says view all magazines here, and you'd be able to see all of the content that are in each of the magazines. You can also view the program components here. But these magazines are what the students would have in their hands. This is what they would be using in their classroom to access their content. There's great resources for teachers. There are homeschool newsletters that teachers can send home to parents so that parents can be abreast of what students are learning in school. There are formative assessments built in throughout the program. There's opportunities for kids to identify main idea, make inferences, compare, contrast, make connections. There are summative assessments at the end of all of the lessons, and there are even end of magazine assessments to try to check for understanding, comprehension, critical thinking, and writing questions. And the other thing that is available at the end of every magazine is a project for kids. There are 2 opportunities where students could do a hands-on project to demonstrate their learning, and there are rubrics provided for the teachers and how to assess that project based on the learning of that unit. The teachers have an educational platform. It's called ED, and ED is where teachers can assign assignments to students. They can monitor their progress. They even have the ability to be able to analyze test questions that students have missed so that they can go back and say, oh, if I look at this class, 50% of my students missed question 15. Let me look back and see what that is. And then I can form instructional groups based on the items that students have missed. There is a lot of professional development designed within the program. Our teachers will receive some professional development at the start of next school year. They will, however, have all of their teachers' editions in their hands before they leave for the summer. Teachers love that when you can give them those materials before they leave, because as all of you know, and Roseanne is nodding there as a former teacher, that you have a little bit of time during the summer to sort of relax a little bit and to peruse materials and to go into the school year feeling prepared. And so, of course, we don't expect teachers to do that, but most teachers are eager to really feel on top of the program. And so they will have those materials in hand, and they will be able to get the training that they need done in the fall as well. So before I go on to the 6th grade social studies curriculum, which is slightly different, I do want to ask if there are any questions regarding the K-5 materials here, which is Houghton Mifflin, called Into Social Studies, which was the recommendation of the team that looked at all of the materials.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else was this what you had available for us to potentially stop down at the district office to look at before tonight?
Yes, so this one, Taylor, is a hard copy, is at the district, and is there for you to look at, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Connie, how well do you think this is going to align with state testing?
That's a great question. Our teachers spent a significant amount of time, Diane, looking to see how it aligned with standards. I think that there are probably some things that we may want to look at, whether or not we move some magazines around, to ensure that there are some better alignment with maybe perhaps when things are taught. I know Jill Oschlager was part of the team as well. And I know the team, especially the essential skills team, was really looking closely at that skill instruction and where that skill is throughout the magazines, so that we can do our very best to ensure that we're setting students up for success on those assessments. So it's a great question and something we're conscious about.
I figured you were, but I just thought I'd ask anyway.
No, it's good. All right. If there's no questions on K-5, then I'll move on to sixth grade. So sixth grade is a link that I sent all of you last week. I did send you a link to the website. Sixth grade had a little bit of different desires given the age of their students and the fact that a lot of middle school materials are huge textbooks that look very high school-like in nature. And the sixth grade teachers were concerned that that's not very engaging for kids, that handing them a large textbook can be quite a turnoff and not very engaging and interactive. So the sixth grade team was really looking at something that sort of blended technology, engaging, really appropriate for middle school. And so social studies by Discovery Education is what this team selected. It fits very well into the K-5, so there's not a disconnect that the kids will be doing one thing in grades K through 5 and then shifting gears. Our team for this was Angie Mangold and Caitlin Klipstein, along with some other teachers from the grade levels. Really, they did look at some of the other resources that the elementary team had, but for a variety of reasons, really felt as though this was a better fit. They were, like I said, seeking to find a resource that was more engaging, interactive. They really liked the idea of an e-tech book for kids. So that is what they selected. The other really unique thing about Social Studies Discovery here is that it is a site license. So when we purchased this for sixth grade, our 7th and 8th grade teachers and students will also have access to some of the ancillary resources. And Discovery Education has over 190,000 digital resources, from video clips to virtual field trips. And because it's a site license, our 7th and 8th grade teachers and students would be able to take advantage of it as well. So that's sort of a plus, because our 7th and 8th grade teachers weren't in sort of need of a new core resources, but certainly are always looking for ancillary pieces to support instruction for kids. Discovery Education is also very flexible. Like I said, it has over 190,000 engaging lessons and resources that our teachers can pull from. One of the exciting things about Discovery Education is that it is completely customizable for our district. So our teachers will work with support staff from Discovery Education. They'll say, okay, what are our essential skills? What is our scope and sequence for our curriculum? What do we want for content? And they will plan it with our teachers. So it will be customized for Burlington, which is really also a very unique feature that the middle school found, intriguing, that this could be something that was designed specifically for Burlington. All of these materials also are in English and Spanish. So it does help to support our English language learners. And there is also a lot of additional reading scaffolds and supports. So it helps differentiate the instruction for students who may be struggling with reading as well. So both programs, the K-5 and the 6, offer a great deal of support for all of our learners. As I mentioned, the program has an e-tech book. And that is what they found most intriguing, was the ability for kids to access this online, work collaboratively in teams. there's certainly always the ability to print out as well if they want hard copies of things. So this was the 6th grade social studies, which is discovery education. An exciting, and hopefully if you didn't get a chance to look at the website and the link that I sent you, that you might get to do that in the next couple of days. And the video on the homepage does a really nice job of just talking about, in summary, you know, what are the big highlights of the program. Any questions about this one? Okay. So that brings us to our last adoption, which is a K-5 phonics program. And the phonics program that was selected by the team is called Benchmark Phonics. It was developed by Wiley Blevins. And really sort of the premise of Wiley's work is really that phonics instruction needs to be explicit, it needs to be systematic, and it really needs to give time for kids to practice the skills that they're learning. It can't be kind of haphazard. There really has to be the opportunity for kids to be able to, on an ongoing basis, really be able to practice those skills. And with this particular program, it also means that these skills are applied in reading and writing. They're not isolated. They're embedded in reading and writing. So again, we had a team that worked. We had representation at each grade level, and we had the essential skills team join us as well for their input. So again, just a thank you to the team. This committee examined 5 programs. We looked at 95% group. We looked at a program called Foundations. We did look at the units of study for phonics. We looked at Benchmark Phonics, which is ultimately the one we selected. And we looked at another one called Amplify, which is a core reading program with a phonics component. After listening to the presentations, after reviewing all of the materials, Benchmark Phonics did rise to the top, as did Foundations. Those were the 2 programs that we narrowed it down to. So then what we did as a team is we talked to 2 districts that were using those 2 programs, because we really wanted to hear from educators and practitioners in the field, because it's one thing for the company to tell you why the program is so great, but we really wanted to hear from people who were using it, teachers, what are you noticing? And it was after that discussion that we eliminated Foundations, even though that had some really strong components. We felt as though Benchmark Phonics had stronger endorsements from the district, and we felt as though that was going to meet our needs. So some of the things that are really unique to this particular program is that it is K through 5, which some people may say, well, that's odd. You know, you need phonics instruction all the way through 5th grade. Our primary lessons at the lower level will be about phonics and phonemic awareness. As the students get a little bit older, it's more about word study and word morphology. But as we know, there are still struggling readers, even as they get older, who still are missing some of those foundations. So this is a systematic program with daily lessons, 5 days a week for students at the lower level, and 3 days a week as students get a little bit older. There are some really neat interactive reading and writing opportunities for kids. There is the interactive workbook at kindergarten level. There are decodable readers so that students can practice those sounds and words that they've been developing. There are interactive reading and writing books. There's a book called the My Word Study. So all of these give students opportunity to engage with text, either interactively, sort of by circling and working through phonemic sounds with their books, or in independent reading where they actually get to practice the skills that they have learned. There are some really cool manipulatives that elementary teachers love and that support the program. Alconin boxes, picture word cards, sound spelling cards. All of these items come in the kits that all teachers will have. And there's also all of these items are available on digital resources. So anything that you see on this screen that is in hard copy is also available for teachers digitally. They can print them out. Kids can actually access them as well digitally. This too has a lot of built-in supports for our English language learners, which was something that as a team, we were really cognizant about as we were looking at the programs, and also that differentiation piece and that ability to scaffold and to really meet the needs of lower level readers and students who might be struggling, as well as those who need enrichment. But just this ability to be able to differentiate and provide a variety of learning activities for kids. There are lots of ways built into the system for teachers to be able to assess student progress. There are assessments, sort of formative assessments that are built in daily into the work that is being done with kids. There are some cumulative assessments that come at the end of each unit, whether it be dictation, high frequency word checks. There is also something called the quick phonics assessment or quick spelling assessment that can be used as a monitoring tool to be used 3 times throughout the year, sort of as a comprehensive look to see how students are progressing. So I could give it at the beginning of the year, I can give it in the middle of the year, I can give it at the end of the year just to see growth over time. And sort of to be used as a diagnostic tool with kids and teachers to be able to know where students are. There are some great take-home things as well that are provided for our parents, similar to the other programs I mentioned, so that parents have an idea of what students are working on in school, and also just to be able to reinforce, because quite often parents say, what can I do at home? How can I help, reinforce what my children are learning at school? And so this is a really nice opportunity. This can be hung on a refrigerator. Teacher can give some directions as to what might be, they might be able to do. Someone suggested, it's tic-tac-toe. So when you do something and you get 3 in a row, you bring it back to school and show that you've done something, and there's some incentive there, to try to create this homeschool connection and reinforcement of skills at home. There will be, before I turn over to questions, certainly again, some training for teachers. They too will have their kits before they leave for the summer. I believe that all of the programs that, that we have selected have ongoing support, because that's important. I know that initial implementation of a new adoption is important, but ongoing support for teachers throughout is equally as important. And I do feel as though all 3 companies will provide that ongoing support and be readily available for questions that we have and opportunities to support our teachers for successful implementation. Phew, I know it's a long night, but I hope I didn't go too fast, and I hope I was still able to give you an overview. I do feel that we've picked 3 great programs that will serve our students well.
I just wanted to comment that the state has really been interesting with phonics. I know it was mentioned in the DPI candidacies of our people this last election. The state has gone from no phonics to lots of phonics, and then back to no phonics with whole language, and now we're back to formal phonics. And I really personally love this. Looks like this program is great.
It is, and it's an area obviously that's gotten a lot of attention also across the state, because our scores, not just in Burlington, but statewide, have not been very strong in the area of phonics. And so there is a resurgence, like you have said, Roseanne, in terms of recognizing the need to really have this systematic and explicit instruction for our kids.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then I think we need a motion. We can put it in the same motion to for the social studies and the phonics.
I think Barry has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Barry. Barry, you have a question.
So what is the modern lifespan of a curriculum? I know when I was in school, I had, like 50 names ahead of me in the book. What's the modern life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will tell you, in some ways, it's almost embarrassing to say that our K-5 social studies, I think might have been early 2000s. It's old. And so, and I say that just because there isn't necessarily a normal lifespan. Sometimes you'll hear, Barry, in other districts that there's a 7-year, review cycle. So whether you need it or not, a particular curriculum comes up for review every 7 years. We've had programs that we've had longer than that because they've served us well. They're still aligned to standards. Our students are succeeding. Our achievement results show that it's still meeting the needs of students. And then, quite honestly, we've had other programs where we haven't had that very long. I mean, we say, you know what, this just was the wrong fit. This just isn't meeting our kids' needs. Now, we try to be obviously financially responsible and not do that in a short period of time. But, 7 years is probably a good estimate. But again, we have done it more as an as needed basis, based on those variables that I just mentioned.
Okay, well, the reason I ask is because there's a lot of tech in this curriculum, which I think is fantastic. But obviously that kind of dates itself as time goes on. Is this a purchase or is this a license of the curriculum?
So this first year, when we buy materials, there is a larger investment first year because we're getting some of those consumables. And so there is a purchase of those things. Then that renewal, as time every year goes, we do have to renew that subscription piece. So it's kind of a combination of both of those things. There's an upfront cost for some hands-on things. And then there is this reoccurring fee of some of that technology piece that we want to have in subsequent years.
And Barry, if I could just chime in too, along with what Connie said, I think one of the interesting selling points that a lot of folks will use relative to technology is that it extends the life because the technology elements of it are not static. They're constantly being updated. And so whatever you're sort of logging into is the latest and greatest version. And so there's actually some reason probably to lean in that direction, but you're right. We've got this initial outlay, but then there are these annual sort of renewals because of the tech elements of it. So great question. Sorry, Connie.
No, you're good.
It's an excellent point, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards. Is if this was a purchase, will we get cut off at some point, or is it a license where we renew the license and we get the current content? And it sounds like it's the latter, which is fantastic for the district.
Anyone else? Okay, then I look for a motion to adopt both the social studies and the phonics programs.
I move we move forward on the phonics and social studies curriculums presented by Connie.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we move on with the curriculum adoption of social studies and the phonics. Any discussion? Connie, thank you for the presentations. They were good.
Well, thank you for your patience and sticking it out till 10:04.
Okay, well, we'll have the vote. Toby?
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Connie. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about the school board meeting format. If we're going to go back to meeting in person or continue with as we're doing it now. So I think we're going to have a discussion on that, and then we'll have to have a vote on it. So who would like to begin? Who has an idea on it?
Just to start things off, I guess, is this another one that we should hold off on until after the reorg? Or do we want to do this now?
And I think we should hold off until the reorg, and plus we could also get Kevin's input since Kevin's not here.
Okay. I'll need a motion then to put this off till the next, or when do you want to do it then? Because the reorg isn't a regular meeting. So you want to put it
I mean,
off?
if you'd like, you know, I mean, if the board doesn't take action, that's totally your prerogative. We could relist this for a discussion. I guess it would be May 10th is the next regular meeting.
It is.
That'd be post, after the reorg.
Okay. Is that,
Well, and I was putting it out there as a question, not a demand. What do other people think?
I would just as soon do that. Susan, what do you think?
I think that's fine.
Okay, Diane?
Whatever the vote was, I was going to abstain.
Oh, okay. Peter?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine by me. I have mixed thoughts about this too. So I guess I was curious to see what the other board members and administrators felt too about comfort with going back in person. That was a big question I had. We can talk about that in May.
Okay. Who am I missing? Taylor?
I already gave my comment.
You gave your opinion. Okay, anybody else that I skipped? All right, can we just drop it or do we have to have an action or a motion on that?
Nope, if you don't take action, then it's just, it's a non-factor, so wouldn't need to take action and we can relist it for May 10th.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you all. All right, moving on. Neola recommended revisions and bylaws. This is the second reading. So, since did you want to say something, Steve? Otherwise, I was going to see if Susan wanted to say anything since she's on the policy committee.
Yep, no, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Susan, did you want to say anything?
Well, this will be the second reading, so I would make a motion to approve the revisions and bylaws and the policies for the Neola.
Do I have a second? I will second it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go along with the recommended revisions and bylaws of the policies. So now we can open it up to discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to request that we pull out policy 143.2 and save that for discussion after the reorg. That's board member information requests.
I think the two board member ones, also policy 0144.5. I think they both have merit and they both need further discussion. So I would second Taylor's motion to amend, removing those two.
So that was 143.2 and 144.5. Any other discussion?
I think that seems like a smart idea because I'm with, I'll go along with Barry's point too. I think they need some more, they could use more discussion.
Is there a reason why we can't discuss it now?
Well, I think we need to have a discussion with the full board here.
Well, we have a quorum.
Well, sure, but we also have a newly elected member to the board who may have some input on that. I don't see an issue with just postponing these two policies just for discussion to a later date.
Okay, there's been a motion to accept the revisions of the policy. So we'll have to vote on that first and then have another motion if it fails. Okay, so.
Well, I'm sorry, Roseanne, you said you needed a vote on the policy. Are you saying on the amendments or on the thing?
No, what you didn't, there was not motion for the amendment. You wanted to take those two out, correct?
Yes.
All right, but the motion was that Susan made was to accept and go along with the revisions and the bylaws, and I seconded that. So that's the motion we're talking about now.
Okay, so then I move to amend by removing the two policies we spoke of, 0143.2 and 0144.5 for discussion at a future date.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we take those two out and discuss those at a different time. Any more discussion on that? Okay, then we will vote on the amendment. Toby?
Okay, Roseanne,
No.
Susan,
No.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, so that is a tie.
Okay. Steve, what happens when we have a tie?
Oh, man, it's a Robert rules. No.
I know, I'm thinking of that. I haven't been asked before.
Somehow I was afraid you were going to ask me that because I honestly, I don't know. I would need to think about it. But having said that, if it's a tie and at the will of the board, you know, it's going to be a conversation one way or another. And so if there's not, I mean, it wouldn't matter if the batch were approved tonight and the other two were discussed later, if that is, you know, to appease the board. Otherwise, I'd have to pull out the Roberts Rules book and see where we go with a tie.
Okay. Since we don't know what to do with the tie, do we want to rethink and okay them all except those two and then discuss those later? Anyone want?
Yeah, because I do believe that that's essentially what the motion and amendment will do, is that it will approve the batch less those two, and we'll bring those two back for discussion at a later date, which is fine. We've done that with other policies along the way.
Okay.
We would essentially process everything here less 143.2 and 144.5.
Okay. So that we already have that kind of, you think that's part of the motion? Because I don't have it written.
Yeah, I think that since the motion was to approve them all, the amendment was to remove those two. In essence, if the amendment passes and the motion passes, the net result is we'll process everything except those two and bring those two back at a future meeting.
So we do not need another motion, or we do?
You just have to vote on the amendment probably a second time after following the tie.
For clarity and transparency's sake, Robert's rules, if there is a tie, the motion fails.
Okay.
But that doesn't stop us from extracting them later and yanking them right back out. So it's really just a matter of what kind of hoops do you want to go through? Do you want to do that all over again and yank them out later, or just talk about them later?
So if the motion fails, then Barry, and is dead, thank you for looking at that. Somebody would have to make a new motion, because then the amendment is dead and the sitting motion is still on the table.
In that case, then I'll move to approve all of the policies with the exception of 0134.2 and 0144.5.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that we approve them all except the two that we're going to pull out. Any more discussion?
So is this an amendment to the original motion?
The new motion.
It's a whole new motion. What about the original motion? We never voted on that. I mean, do we have to? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question, Susan. You're making my head
No,
spin with the Robert's rules.
We should, Susan, if that motion remains on the table. So, so either you vote on the original and then Peter can move, or Peter's move is an amendment.
Okay, so as Susan said, we need to vote on the original one that she made, the motion that we do accept all of them.
I think Susan's right. I think we should probably have voted on the original, and then I can make an, if it fails, then we make a new motion.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. Toby, would you read the roll, please?
You're making my head spin.
Okay, so the motion is that we accept all of the policies.
Okay.
Presented by Neola.
Yep. Roseanne?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Peter,
No.
Barry,
No.
Diane,
Yes.
Taylor.
No.
Okay, so you're tied again.
There we are.
So then that one, as we've now learned, that means that the motion does not pass.
Okay,
Now I can make my motion, I believe. That was, since the floor is open, I believe that we approve all the policies except policy 0143.2 and 0144.5.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we approve all of them except 143.2 and 144.5 to be discussed at a later time, correct? We're not just, okay.
Yes,
Correct.
yep, absolutely.
Alrighty. So, any discussion? All right, Toby?
Okay, Roseanne,
No.
Susan,
No.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
No.
Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, tied.
10 more minutes, we hit 4 hours.
That's right. I was looking at you. All right. So do we just need to all think about it and bring it up again at the next meeting? Because we're not getting anywhere with this tonight. I can see that.
Well, and this is just my opinion. Everyone do what they want, but I would rather see us get the policies we all agree on the table now and enforced rather than wait another month to implement all of them or longer if discussion goes beyond that.
Yes. I agree.
All right.
But if you want to hold them all off, that's your prerogative. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, according to the vote, we're going to have to put it off for now. So we'll bring it up again at the May 10th meeting. Is everybody okay with that? I mean, some of you aren't, but we're tied, so
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal.
this is when we needed Kevin here.
Well, I mean, again, it's only 2 policies as opposed to the rest. But, you know,
Okay,
I don't think there was any policy in there that was something that we needed to, that's going to be affected by 1 month. A lot of these were technical corrections.
you're correct, Peter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then that will be put on the agenda for the May 10th meeting. All right. Well, I think we've had a long meeting tonight. So the next meeting and the upcoming dates, I know that I have a Payne and Fraser meeting 19th. The 26th is the board organizational meeting, and then the monthly meeting will be May 10th. So anyone have anything to add to that? Steve?
Nope. And if, in fact, I think you just kind of covered the basic reminders about, you know, what's coming up. The one thing I will add is that almost for sure that come May 3rd, we'll have a compensation committee meeting as well.
Okay. That's good. All right, anything else? Then I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Susan?
So moved.
I thought you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We adjourn. Any discussion? All right, yes.
Diane, thank you for everything. It's been an honor to serve with you. I've really enjoyed the time with you. Maybe we'll see you again soon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll miss you, Diane.
Yeah, we will. You've been a great member.
And a pleasure, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna do roll call. Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
and Taylor.
yes.
Thank you.
Diane, you got your money's worth out of the last meeting.
Thank you all for coming and staying so late, and I think we got a lot accomplished. So thank you again, and we'll see you the 26th.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thank you all.
Take care. Thanks again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.